fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for the V8SCOPS season to get going, and of course it starts with the support categories, Event 1, Night 1, and Virtual Montreal at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We've got the 2-litre Tourers and the V8s coming up for you here at this beautiful, challenging Formula 1 circuit. Really been looking forward to this. Montreal always puts on an excellent race, and with 2-litre touring car action plus some older V8 touring car action on the way later tonight, it's going to be a very good night of racing. So make sure that you settle in and get yourself a nice cup of tea or the beverage of your choice and get ready for this action. To bring it to you all live on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner. We've got Dan Yeaman on commentary, also with me in the box, also handling production behind the scenes tonight, because Jay Kennedy is going with the DSL V8s with our good friend Jake Sperry at the moment, getting simulcast here on SimSpeed TV. If you're joining us for both of them, thank you very much and welcome. Well, Dan, I've been waiting quite some time for another broadcast here at this track. Been around since 1978, the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and a few layout changes over the years, but it remains a very challenging, twisty circuit, plenty of chicanes, but a couple of long straights as well, which should really provide some good slipstream action.
Yeah, it should indeed. Thank you for the introduction there, Reese, and thank you to everyone joining us here this evening as we get the 2023 SCOPS campaign underway with the support categories here tonight and tomorrow night as well. It's a bumper weekend for us here at SimSpeed TV, and well, you were just speaking about some of the track features here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Let's zoom on down into this not too far from the centre of Montreal here on one of the man-made islands here through this middle of the city, and well, it certainly made its place in history, opening up in 1978, but modified to this current configuration back in 2002, and now very much well established as the home of the Canadian Grand Prix in the process. And you can see there's a great mix of corners. The opening sector, high speed, a lot of flow with a more broad, wide chicanes, and then actually, I have to say, Reece, the majority of the lap is a lot of chicane work through that back half of the circuit. Then we get down to the La Pringle hairpin and then bring it back up the casino straight away and into one final chicane with the now very much infamous Wall of Champions awaiting you there should you dare to push a little bit too hard to get your lap complete.
Yeah, that final chicane is definitely one to look out for. Some very big curbs. Montreal is also very notorious on iRacing for being quite tough when it comes to slowdowns. A lot of these chicanes have nice big curbs that look incredibly inviting, but if you overstep it just a little bit, you have the potential to be hit with some brutal slowdown penalties, and we might see that define a couple of the results tonight. The track also pretty long as well, despite its short lap time, and that largely comes down to those very long straights. And have a look at that. This is the original layout that the circuit opened with. The start-finish line was actually on the exit of the hairpin as well as the pits, and I mean, what is now the final chicane, obviously a lot more open on the original layout, but in quite a few other places the track was a good sight slower.
Yeah, as I'll bring up the overlay of both of the configurations on top of one another there, and you can see just how they modify the La Pringle hairpin in particular, shortened up the run into that part of the track there. We get rid of the chicane down the casino straight away in the modern configuration, but we do sharpen up the Wall of Champions chicane, as well as a reconfiguration up at what is now turn 1, and also over there at turn 6. It's a little bit sharper, a bit more of a 90-degree corner through that spot. So indeed, does on the whole speed up the course of the lap, and now makes for a very great overtaking run. Get the drive off the Bringle hairpin up to the Wall of Champions, but still plenty of opportunities around the backside of the circuit, of course, as well here, Reese.
Yeah, indeed. It's going to be a fun night here on this circuit. The run through turns 1 and 2 on the current layout has been the scene of many a large crash over the years, both in real life and in the events that we've broadcast here on SimSpeed TV. So keep an eye out in lap 1, turn 1. It's almost as bad as the first chicane at Monza. Here's the format for tonight for the 2-litre Tourers. We've got a 10-minute qualifying session that the drivers are in the middle of at the moment, and then we've got 3 races of 9 laps each. Race 2 is a reverse grid of the results from race 1, and race 3 is defined by the race 2 finishing order. So that brings a couple of elements of chaos into how you play this night, Dan. You finish dead last or retire in the first race, you've got pole position for race 2, and that could turn your night around.
It sure could, yeah. All hosted in the one server, as is usually done with these multi-race formats for the support series, which means, yeah, you do get a chance to redeem or get back in the action if things go astray here. And one final thing to check in on here is where we're going over the course of 2023 here with our V8SCOPS support, well, the 2-litre Tourers as part of the V8SCOPS support series. In particular, all the categories will be featured over the next 2 days here in Montreal. We'll then get the 2-litre Tourers as we've got here with us to start, but also, as you'll see tomorrow, the Grand Tour class, brand new to 2023, along with the also new Flat 4 category, all featuring at that second round. The Bathurst 6-hour makes its debut on the calendar this year. We'll then head to Phillip Island with respect to the 2-litre Tourers specifically. Road Atlanta to follow that one up. We can see we've also got ourselves a compulsory pit stop format at the island for the third round of the season in April, and evenly spaced out for the most part once again. And then we'll see big events. Oschersleben is a major event for the support categories in particular, so they will get their chance to feature there at that event there, Reese. Of course, the V8SCOPS Bathurst 1000 there in September, where all the support categories will line up there to support the main event, of course, as always. And similarly, Long Beach joins the V8SCOPS calendar this year, will be one of our Endurance Cup races. So we'll see the 2-litre Tourers there, and of course the finale for the year at Road America, where all the supports will once again make their final appearance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to the Bathurst 6-hour. That's going to be a magnificent event, and I'm sorely tempted to have a go at racing in that with my friends at Fusion Sim Racing. Let's see how that goes. Either way, it's a really good calendar here for the 2-litre Tourers, and while it only seems like there's 8 events, there's actually quite a few races involved in that one. There's no single races for these cars apart from the Bathurst 6-hour, and even then, well, it's in the name, it's a 6-hour race, so an awful lot of track time for these cars.
Yeah, it certainly will be. It's a busy year, all things considered, and looking forward to bringing it all to you here as the year goes on. And, well, as we've been talking here, grid has just been concluded, so I need to make sure we get ourselves on the right screen here, Reese. And I'll be sorting a few things out in the background for you as well. But let's get ourselves... Oh, apologies there. I've got it on my screen. I haven't turned on one thing in the background here, which will enable you to see the grid. But if I do that there, that should pop up in a moment's time. And voila! There is our grid for our opening race of the 2-litre Tourers. Reese, walk you through it. I'm going to do a few things to help get you sorted out as well.
Beautiful, thanks Dan. Damon Mulqueen on pole position of dominant qualifying performance, 5/10 ahead of Daniel Mulkenray, with Tyson Hanmer and Brady Baldwin taking up the second row. Sean Hart and Craig Mason will round out the top 6. A small field here tonight, only 12 cars, the last 6 of them headed up by Alan Geel, and the 46 of Robert Northway, the Kiwi, with Isaac Edwards in 9th, and Simon Gorowski, the last driver to set a qualifying time. We got Lindsay Hobbs and Brett O'Keefe in there as well. So we'll see what they can do. Race control is Henry King and the 00 car. If there's a big enough incident out on track and drivers need to tow back to the pits, well, the no escape rule is active in V8SCOPS sessions, so they can't just escape back to the garage. They need to request permission to tow from race control. And if they're in a dangerous enough place, that means the manual safety car comes out. So we'll see if the racers get affected by that. Just a few seconds left to get things going here, as most of the drivers are out on the grid. We're still missing Malcolm Ray. No, there he is. He's just jumped out there onto the grid. So that means we have our field ready. Brett O'Keefe not taking the start. So we're going to be seeing 11 cars take the start here as the revs rise for race 1 of the 2-litre Tourers, presented by Wilson's Industrial Sales. We are away, and that looks like a pretty good start there from the Honda of Simon Gorowski, but Damon Mulqueen has nailed the start. He is flying away from them already. Side by side for third, Brady Baldwin gets up the inside of Tyson Hanmer, and it looks like Alan Geel making sure that Sean Hart is now in the clutches of Simon Gorowski in the purple Honda Civic towards the back. We've got majority Hyundai Elantras and Honda Civics here, with a couple of Velosters thrown in for good measure. A good spread of cars. Shame that we aren't seeing any Audi RS3s though. Down to the final chicane before the back stretch. And this is where the exit is incredibly important. Tyres being cold here on the first lap. It means that drivers have to be very careful on the throttle. These cars are front wheel drive. If you get on the power too soon, you'll understeer straight into the walls.
You sure will. These opening laps in particular can be incredibly brutal in these cars. We jump on board here for a second. Robert Northway in the number 46 machine, currently trying to work his way forward after actually starting in 8th place. So he's dropped back a spot to 9th off the start of this one here as the field makes its way down into the Pringle hairpin for the first time. Keeping nice and close together here as we see the two Hondas in front of Alan Geel and Sean Hart go a bit too close to each other. In fact, Geel out to the wall there in the 613 race. Going to get passed by Sean Hart. We'll see if Gorowski in behind can make a run here down the casino straight away for the first time.
Well, let's see. He's heading up a nice 4-car pack here, is Hart, with Geel, Gorowski and Northway up behind them. That's the view from Gorowski and the Alfa Venturi car as they come into the final chicane on the end of lap 1. Pounding over those curbs, and it looked like someone just made a slight bit of contact with the wall of champions up ahead, but no one carrying any obvious visual damage from that. It was a good run for Gorowski through the final corner. Daniel Mulkenray, meanwhile, spinning up ahead from 2nd place. That is unfortunate there. He's going to have to let pretty much the whole field by.
You sure, in fact, yeah, made it exactly the entire field. Indeed, quite a calamity there for the number 69 driver there as he gets his car facing the right way at least, but unfortunately for one of the other Alfa Venturi racing cars out here tonight, now going to be on the back foot here as the rest of the field still bunched up as they work their way through this middle sector of the lap. Meanwhile, though, in saying that, off the opening lap of this race, there is actually just in the background a shot. Here we go, Gorowski and Northway going at it for 7th place. I was just going to say Damon Mulqueen well and truly checking out on this opening lap. But let's stay here with the fight for 6th.
Yeah, it's looking good. Yes, indeed. It's looking great here between Gorowski and Northway. I think Northway actually tried to send one up the inside of Gorowski at the chicane as Gorowski makes a mistake and goes, oh, so close to getting head-on into the concrete barrier, but it looks like he just avoided it. He stopped just short of the wall. You could put a 5-cent coin in between him and the concrete.
Yeah, talk about a bit of a lucky break, I guess, if there ever was one, because, yeah, he walks away from that moment without any damage. He just unfortunately have to now slot into a bit of an empty hole on the circuit there in 10th place, just ahead of Mulkenray there in the back end of the shot. Let's go back up the field a little bit here. These short and sharp races means we don't have a lot of time to really sort of keep our eyes on things. And you can see, this is the fight that is starting to brew here. It is currently lined up in behind 3rd place. Apologies. That is one place not far enough up. There we go. It is the fight for 2nd on the road. Brady Baldwin currently shadowing teammate of Damon Mulqueen there. But Tyson Hanmer and Cruz Mason there certainly looking to keep the pressure on as they work their way through the start of lap 3 here race.
Yeah, really good stuff. 2 Elantras trailed by the Veloster of Craig Mason. Let's see if any of them make any mistakes here coming into the first of that big sequence of chicanes down the back of the circuit. Looks like they've all kept it nice and clean. At the end of lap 1, the tyres are just starting to reach their optimum temperature, so drivers can really start pushing now. You can see how much Hanmer's pushing, really taking a lot out of that inside curve, and it's helped us exit onto the back straightaway just a little bit. And it's not even technically a straightaway. There's a slight curve to it. Definitely straightens up here into the braking zone. Try and take as much of the curve as you can there without triggering the slowdown. And that looks like they've gotten through cleanly once more. This hairpin is one of the prime overtaking opportunities on the lap, and really make up a lot of time here as Hanmer has a look up the inside of Brady Baldwin. Nothing doing for the time being though, and Baldwin gets the advantage on the exit. He took it a little bit easier into the turn, was able to get a straighter run as a result.
Yeah, you can see that hurts the car obviously off the turn here as we stay on board with Hamilton in behind. You can see he has got a nice gap back to Cruz Mason, which means that he's got a chance to keep the focus on the driver ahead here. As you can see, though, good gaining on the brake there from the Veloster of Mason. But in return, the gaps just ease their way back out once again as they put the power down the front straight away here to complete the third lap of the race. And, well, yeah, you can see the race leader is Damon Mulqueen. He's just checked off, and, well, I don't think we'll be seeing much more of him in this race at the very least, barring some truly unfortunate circumstances. As further on back in the field, looks like Robert Northway continuing to make his charge here. Reese, as I see that he's just gotten past the number 613 of Alan Geel through that opening couple of corners here as they scrap over 6th place.
Yep, Geel shadowing him very nicely into that chicane, but Northway, I know from experience racing this category last year, he's very good in these cars, so you've got to take care if you want to have a fight with him, because he'll definitely stamp his authority in terms of pace. And look at that, he's already jetting away from Alan Geel, now splitting the teammates here. Sean Hart up ahead, his last lap was a 47.17, 47.2 for Robert Northway. So let's see what Northway can do with a little bit of clear air. These cars are difficult to pass in from my experience, but the actual racing that you get from these things is phenomenal. You can go side by side through corners and really slice and dice with everyone around you. In terms of lap times, well, Damon Mulqueen is far and away the class of the field. He's the only driver to get into the 1 minute 46 bracket so far.
Yeah, he is, and well, stamping his mark on the category here. If ever there was an opening statement to be made, of course, still got another 2 races after this one tonight before these guys can consider their opening round of the season done. So it is going to be a bit of a busy field. You get a nice shot here. You can actually see we do have the field starting to string out towards the back there of the shot as we sort of keep our focus roughly in the middle here with Robert Northway. And, well, I'm sure he'll be looking to try and make up some ground. You can see there just inside 10 seconds and actually slow through the open couple of corners. Slow down penalty from the World Champions, unfortunately. I think if that, or maybe the Turn 1 Apex got a bit too aggressive through there potentially. And as a result, got to back off and clear that Phil black flag there, which he does without too much fuss, but as a result, loses about 3 seconds to the race leader.
Well then, another little slight clobber of the wall there from the Veloster of Lindsay Hobbs, who's running in behind Northway there, who's now having to get a bit of a recovery on. Looked like an ever so slight graze of the wall, if that, because I'm not seeing any damage on Hobbs's car. Meanwhile, the battle for third is starting to heat up here. It looks like Craig Mason has gotten a run on Tyson Hanmer, and Hanmer's going to have to go defensive here into the hairpin. Oh dear! They make contact, and oh no, that takes out Baldwin as well. Oh, that is a big incident, and I think race control might be called as a result of that. The pass for third there between Mason and Hanmer. Hanmer, I think, drifted a little bit to the left under brakes, and unfortunately that sent Mason off the circuit, and he couldn't brake. Baldwin could do absolutely nothing. I'm just taking another look at that from my end, and yeah, looks like Mason was right up at the edge of the circuit. There was nowhere he could go from that contact, so that's going to make things very difficult here. Second is still on though, and now it is between Hanmer and Hart as they come down the front straight, and big dive up the inside there from Hanmer, and that looks pretty fantastic there.
A little bit of drifting.
Oh, easy does it.
Alan Giel there in the 613. I think trying to hang around the outside of it was Robert Northway. He was alongside him behind, and unfortunately it's just come a little unstuck there. So I think, touch wood, I think we've got a moment, Reece. So what I'm going to try and do here is we'll go and queue up a Virtual Racing School replay of that unfortunate moment down at the Pringle here. Let's see if we can sort of break that one down a little bit more for us here on the broadcast, as I'll hit the old magic button there, cue the replay, and here it comes.
Here we go then. So keep an eye there on Mason and Hanmer behind Baldwin. Hanmer, yeah, just goes left a little bit under brakes, and there was nothing Baldwin could do from that point on. He'd already committed to braking for the hairpin, couldn't alter his line, and it all happened so quickly behind him.
Yeah, it is definitely unfortunate, to say the least, and, well, looks like he might have gotten away without too much damage. It's just been the track position that's hurting now. As you can see, it's Robert Northway behind him here. He's looking to make another spot in the process and get himself up into the top four here. He's the number 46, and there's a credit to Baldwin that able to build that gap early on and not be under too much pressure for lots of spots lost, but up the inside will go the 46 and Northway, and indeed, there we go, comes into picture just as I was going to pan across to pick up. Well, that's a bit too much curve there, Brady, I suspect. Yep, Phil, black flag. It's going to be another slowdown, so we're watching number 7 have to pull over here either down the front stretch, or it looks like he might try and bleed this off between turns 1 and 2 to clear that one here, and unfortunately for him, that will mean lost time!
Oh, Brady! Oh, easy. Take it easy. He was on the headlight flash on Northway coming out of the chicane, so I get the feeling he's not very happy. Oh, no. No.
Yeah, I think
Take it easy, boys.
we'll move on from that one there and let that one be resolved elsewhere at another time and place, I think, because unfortunately that doesn't look too good for the CV of Baldwin there. And because to be honest, especially considering it looked like it was all fair up the inside of the Wall of Champions, and just a mistake from Baldwin to try and cut back inside the Northway on the way out of the corner. So not a great look there for the number 7. So eyes here for the fight for second place. That's what we've got here at the moment, Reece. Tyson Hanmer leading Sean Hart. These two drivers still trying to scrap over the last 2 podium places. Now that Northway is a fair way down the order, he'll disengage from this group. It's just these two will scrap for it because, yeah, it's all kinds of bedlam match. In fact, what we've got literally is Northway, and yeah, that's gotten a little bit more crazy since we
Northway and everyone.
yes, indeed. It looks like Northway's signing up to be the school bus conductor on this one here as they file on in. And in fact, one of the Velocities there, that would be Lindsay Hobbs, going to the pit lane. Interesting.
No, he went too deep into the chicane.
Indeed, too deep, and Phil Black flagged for his troubles. He clears that one pretty promptly, though, as we're already on to the penultimate lap of race number 1 here tonight for the 2-litre Tourers, Reece. Yeah, see, this is an interesting scrappy. This is literally everyone from 4th on back, with the exception of the Cruise Mason, the 47, unfortunately got hit in that earlier scuffle. So it is good to see the cars are packing up here to give these guys a good race to the end. Does mean we still have a case of it's realistically 3 races now. Oh, in the background there, that was Isaac Edwards finding... no apologies. No, sorry, Daniel McColray, the other of the unpainted blue Elantras here today. Apologies to Isaac for the misidentification. As we'll go on board with the 69 of McElroy, and he'll go up the inside of Edwards on the way down to turn 7, and I can now do that, and there we go. That should be pretty signed, sealed, and delivered. Edwards tries the crisscross. He'll try back again, but move is covered off there nicely by the driver of the 69, Alvin Venturi. Elantra there as they work their way down to the hairpin for the second last time in race number 1.
Yeah, defensive from Malcolm Ray, and Simon Gorowski tries his best to get past Isaac Edwards. Unfortunately, nothing happening there as down the backstretch, sorry. Is it the backstretch? It's part of the final straight towards the chicane, let's just call it that. Alan Geel having to make way for Brady Baldwin, who gets a good run. He's got the inside line for the chicane. I don't know if Geel will be able to fight this. He doesn't. Manages to keep it loose and smooth, though. Good exit as the white flag flies for these guys. Lap 9 has begun. And this is a very close battle. Geel having another look up the inside of Baldwin, or is that a defense from Daniel Mulkenray? We'll have to wait and see. Mulkenray, remember, he has quite a bit here to prove. He was the driver that qualified in second and unfortunately spun out due to his own mistake. He's got so much to fight for here as Geel just misses the apex of the chicane a little bit, gets a poor run through. That'll allow Mulkenray alongside, but he's got the outside line for that sweeper. Nothing he can do. Geel goes defensive again, moving across the track, trying to block the advances, and it's not really a block. Sort of the wrong wording there, but a really good run. Cut the inside on the exit from Daniel Mulkenray. That is a fantastic bit of throttle application. Can he pull this off in the braking zone? On the anchors they come. And Geel behind into the corner. Mulkenray just sides his way through and gets himself back into 6th place. Magnificent stuff. And looks like that's calmed things down for the most part. No big moves into the hairpin. Not much these guys can do. But Damon Mulqueen coming across the line. Checkered flag flies. And Mulqueen will take first blood here in the 2-litre Tourers, part of the V8SCOPS support series. What a fantastic drive there from our pole sitter, unchallenged the whole way. Tyson Hanmer is going to take 2nd place, and Sean Hart will cross the line in 3rd. That is your first podium sorted. And it looks to me like everyone else crossing the line roughly in order. So that will be the end of proceedings for the first third of these races.
It will indeed. So we'll get a chance to quickly confirm those results, I think, in a second. But at the same time, we are going to... Actually, no, apologies. We'll basically be going straight into the consolations. There we go. We tick straight over into that one here. A quick confirmation of your race results from heat number 1 here. And look at that, 11.2 seconds out in front for Damon Mulqueen. The number 42, Synergy Sim Racing, Hyundai Elantra. Really the star of the show so far this evening there. Tyson Hanmer finishes that race there in second, able to hold off Sean Hart to put the first of our Honda Civic Type Rs there in P3 race. And then Northway, Baldwin, oh goodness me, I can't even say Daniel McElroy's last name properly. Apparently I've got word soup going on in my head. Apologies to Daniel there. Alan Geel, Isaac Edwards, Simon Gorowski, and Lizzie Hobbs, your 10 drivers to finish that race with Craig Mason, unfortunately, over the page as our one and only retirement from that one due to the damage with the contact with Baldwin and Hanmer down at the Pringle hairpin. Well, just like that, Reese, there goes the timer. We're already ready to roll for race number 2.
We are indeed, and Mason is on pole for this one, or is he?
He is, yep.
No.
Effective
yes.
pole, yes.
Yeah, effective pole, but that's not a very good start there from Lindsay Hobbs, is it? He's gotten swamped there by the Honda Civic of Simon Gorowski, and they're almost going to go 3 wide on the way into the hairpin. Take it easy. Mulkenray gets up the inside of Hobbs and then draws around the outside of turn 2. Tries his best to get a run. Unfortunately, doesn't work at all. That's problems for Isaac Edwards. He just took a trip into the grass and hit the wall for his troubles. Doesn't seem to be too much damage as Hobbs continues defending from Mulkenray, and the drivers who finished up the top here in race 1 suddenly find themselves with a lot of cars in front of them.
Sure do. If you're someone like Damon Mulqueen, you know you've got clear pace over all of these drivers. Maybe you're wary about someone like Robert Northway, who's only 3 cars back now and has to also work through this traffic as well. As you can see them here, trying to get some air as we've got side by side up ahead there between Hobbs and McCullenray. Oh, I am so sorry to Daniel. I apparently Mulqueenray. I've literally heard you. I'm worrying about the other time because it's getting a bit busy out here on the circuit. I'll figure out Mulqueenray's surname at some point by just listening to you and drilling that one into my skull here. Because look at them here as an angry pack of Hornets down into the hairpin for the first time. Race 3 wide contact.
No,
but no one goes around until
problems there.
Mulqueen.
Yep, it's gotten even worse. Yep, that's taken Mulqueen out of contention here. Oh, wow. And Lindsay Hobbs, I think, an innocent victim in all of that. It all started because he got turned by Simon Gorowski, who tried to stick one up the inside there. Very unfortunate indeed. But the battling continues. Here is Gorowski trying on Sean Hart and also attempting to keep Robert Northway behind him. Isaac Edwards takes to the runoff area in the background and will re-emerge onto the circuit without much problem. Looks like Mulqueenray has gone into the pits. That is interesting there. Mechanical. As a side-by-side between Hyundai and Honda. Mechanical black flag, you say?
Indeed. Unfortunately, Mulqueenray picking up terminal damage from the opening lap stoushes, and likewise for the 27 of Lindsay Hobbs. As we see there, Tyson Hanma gets past the 326 of Simon Gorowski, who was trying to get past number 46 of Robert Northway, but not able to make the move stick there through turns 1 and 2, and the 18 of Hanma able to take advantage. Now, if his exposure might work out a little better here, what I can actually also do for us tonight is actually bring up a little something extra. And in fact, you know what? Let's just do this here because we've got our eyes on him at the moment. There we are.
Ah, there we go.
Everyone, say hello. And let me get this all set up right so I can go there. And there. Ta-da! Although you can see, he's currently scrapping quite a bit hard.
Yeah, that he is. This is getting very difficult here for Tyson Hanma. Right in the middle of this fight as it's side-by-side between Northway and Geel. And Geel going a bit wide in the hairpin. Had to give room to Mr. Northway. And now side-by-side between Geel and Hanma. But Tyson was unable to get a good exit from the hairpin. Gorowski could be brought right back into this. Hanma's going to have to slot back in here. Or is he? He's thinking about it. He's thinking about a move up the inside, isn't he? But there's not much he can do from there. Gets a little bit of a bump from Gorowski, but they get through the final chicane cleanly, and Hanma now instantly on the power. And he'll get up the inside of Alan Geel into the first corner, I would believe. Let's see who has the better brakes here. A little bit more ground gained, and he's through.
Yeah, able to get to the inside there of the apex as Gorowski tries to crisscross and will crisscross in the background of the shot there in the 326. That's a job mostly well done, but you can see it's still on here between Sean Hart and Hanma. But up the inside for turn number 3 there. Should seal the deal, but Gorowski's going to try and come through there in the background as well. That purple Honda has been on a bit of a charge here tonight. He's trying to make up every possible opportunity where it can. As look at them all nearly nose to tail and just barely avoiding contact. This is the kind of good touring car racing you want to see out on the road. And, well, how's this for a reversal of fortune? You said that with the format tonight, drivers who unfortunately get stuck with an accident in race 1. Oh, Gorowski, that's a bit deep. But he just hangs on to it, though. Actually rotates it around on the brakes and doesn't have it flip into the fence.
Yeah, good stuff there from Gorowski. He's going to have to go defensive into the hairpin, though. Will Sean Hart be able to gain something here in the hairpin? He's going to have to go wide, and he might get a better exit from that, potentially. Yeah, it will result in a nice run off the corner. He might just gain this position back from Gorowski. That is fantastic. That's why I love that hairpin so much. You can be on the outside, but it translates into a better run down the back stretch, and it seems not much that Gorowski can do versus Sean Hart down the final straight away. End of lap 3 then, and yeah, you mentioned a reversal of fortunes. Well, Craig Mason leads by 3.8 seconds. That is a pretty good run there for Mason in the Veloster. He is a long way ahead. Oh no,
Slow
that's
down in the Wall of Champions for Gorowski.
Yep, too much curb in the chicane.
Unfortunately, we'll see him drop off the back of the Code 9 Esport teammates there, so they will carry on with a bit of a breather. But yes, I was going to go to the man who unfortunately got entangled in race 1 there, Cruz Mason, in the number 47 Veloster here tonight, and as a result, has been able to take his P1 starting position. Well, not counting the 00 race control Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car of Henry King. But yes, the first car of the racing cars, and clearly had some good pace that unfortunately wasn't able to be displayed in race 1, but is here on show in race number 2.
Absolutely, he is. Brady Baldwin is catching him steadily. 2/10 faster on the last was the driver of the number 7. We'll see how close that gets by the end of the race. You see the gap continuing to fall there, but it's actually ballooned out to over 4 seconds in between the time I last called out the gap to the lead. So whether or not Mason will have to start looking over his shoulder soon, it remains to be seen. But we are past half race distance now as we come up to start the 5th lap, and this is certainly going to result in a pretty good finish if this is anything to go by. Unfortunately for Robert Northway, he just got a slowdown. There he is at the bottom of the screen there, very slow down the front straight, sorry, with Sean Hart now right on the back of him. So Northway is going to have to do all of that hard work all over again.
Yeah, he will, and well, perhaps a bit cruelly. Oh, apologies, that's a replay toggle that was hit there. Now, what I wanted to actually do was quickly focus on Tyson Hanmer here, as I'm going to bring up, we'll bring this up here for a second. You can see, made his way forward in these races here, so doing a good job is Tyson. But crucially, if I can type this out quickly and not make an absolute hash of it. Yeah, no, it's great. This is why usually you don't put producers on the mic. There we go.
Lovely. Wow, look at that time there. 46.8. Damon Mulqueen was definitely the fastest out front in race 1, but as you can see, he's not been able to match his race 1 pace, being stuck in and around cars in the back of the field. Really does a number on your lap times. So Tyson Hanmer might just be ready to chase down Brady Baldwin here. Took out a massive 6/10 on the previous lap. Let's see what the gap turns into now. Currently at about 2.6, 2.7 seconds. Make that 2.3. Have a look at that. Hanmer really going at it under brakes here. Let's compare the lap times then. Across the line, Baldwin comes 147.1. For Hanmer, it was I've just completely lost him. It was 46.7. So that's another 4/10 out there. Brilliant stuff.
There we go. I'll bring it up for a season. We're going to have a look at the lap history. And yeah, I think lap 3, that's the indication that was the traffic Tyson was still working through. At that point in the race, we can see, yes, indeed, last 2 laps, consistent in and around the half-second a lap marker. That will be enough. If he can keep that up, he'll be on the bumper just in time for the last lap, I would think, at that rate. He will need to keep pushing and get himself there as soon as he can, because obviously the more time he can have to size up the rear end of the number 7 of Brady Baldwin, the better in his case. Speaking of gaps and such as well, Reese, I'll bring up the race leader once again, but gap is coming down once again. That was actually quite a bit of a chunk taken out of it. Let's, in fact, we can keep the same here, because this is now in reverse from the race leader back to Baldwin. And, well, yeah, not as big of a loss, but when 2 out of your 3 laps are time losses to the man chasing you down, maybe put you on edge just a tiny bit here, because that gap isn't completely insurmountable just yet. But if you can hold it at around that 1/4 of a second margin, I think he might just be all right for the rest of this one here.
Yeah, maybe just. It's going to be 3 laps to go when he crosses the line. What Craig Mason needs to focus on here in the KRF machine is consistency and avoiding slowdowns, because they are an ever-present threat here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Into the first turn he comes. That's nice, smooth on the way in. Probably could have afforded to take a little bit more curb out of turn 1, but it's all much of a muchness in the end. And he's looking okay there, coming into the twisties here in the first part of the lap. Yeah, you can see that he's not trying to go all out here. He's just trying to keep the car on track. He knows that he can pull out a little bit more pace if he needs to, but he doesn't want to take too many risks here. Just try and bring it home. Absolutely.
We've still got a 3-second margin, 2.5 laps now to go in this one here. And if you're only losing at most 0.3 a second lap, what we'll do is we'll bring up the lap time deltas again on that last one. You can see, no apologies, that is the exact same data as what we were looking at before he crossed the start finish line. So it hasn't quite updated for us. So I'll grab someone else and then I'll grab Baldwin again. There we go. That's what I was hoping for. And yeah, actually very consistently another 1/4 second advantage Baldwin. But again, at those kinds of rates, Baldwin's going to need Mason to make a big mistake to give him a chance, whilst also still being mindful of the driver trying to chase him down from behind. As you can see, again, look at the chunks that Tyson Hammer is continuing to take out of the man in second place.
Yeah, those are some huge gains that Hanmer is making. But unless something drastic happens to Baldwin, it might be too little too late. At the very least, as you mentioned just before, Dan, he'll be right on the bumper. But is that a slowdown I see? I think it might be a slowdown for Tyson Hanmer.
No, Baldwin and Northway with the slowdowns on that lap.
Oh, okay.
So, number 7.
Oh!
And there he goes, serving it round the outside of turn number 2, I would suspect. Hasn't quite cleared it yet as well, so that's not been a very economical way to do it. And as a result, gap back to and there we go. He's a slam on the brake. He still hasn't cleared it, Reese. He's running out of time to get this done. And in fact, it's going to be a slam dunk free pass for the 18 machine. Don't park on the road like that. Harry. And he hasn't served it in time as well. Despite the efforts to clear the penalty, iRacing black flag for failing to clear the penalty. That is going to be a bit more salt in the wound there for the number 7 of Brady Baldwin.
Yeah, that's huge there. He was guaranteed second place, but unfortunately the slowdown coming at just the wrong time for him. He's now behind his teammate of Robert Northway. Meanwhile, Northway chasing down Sean Hart here. Let's see how much time he can make up and potentially get a podium out of this. Now that Baldwin is out of the picture for the time being.
Yeah, I think this is certainly looks to be a case of a matter of when, not if, for Northway here, because you can see the gains in Australia. Of course, has the slipstream from the 610 of Hart here, Reese, but still making the gains through the corners as well to get the better drive. It would seem looks to be a little later on the brakes as well, because look at the corner speed on entry. In comparison, and that was just the right amount of curb for the world champions. Move is coming surely here at turn number 1, and Hart, well, doesn't put up much of a fight there, and under brakes, Northway's going to more or less get that done, I think. No!
No! That's not how you want that kind of battle to end. Hart trying to defend his position, trying to stick it up the inside for turn 2. Unfortunately, the door was rapidly shutting, though he was still quite alongside at the time. Don't know how race control would look at that incident. But either way, that seems to have promoted Damon Mulqueen up to potentially a podium here on the final lap, and we know how fast Mulqueen is. Look at the time going down. That delta is steadily decreasing here as Northway will probably try into the hairpin at this stage for a move on Sean Hart. Oh, look at that. He took it perfectly, that chicane. He's right on the bumper of the Code 9 Honda, and this could be a move up the inside of the hairpin. If not, a slipstream down the final straight. Defensive from Sean Hart. Northway takes the nice wide run and the crisscross. Is this going to be enough here? It looks like it is. It's going to be a move here for third place for Damon Mulqueen. Will he be able to get it done is the big question. Well, he's already well alongside Hart and a little bit ahead as well. Into the final corner will come Craig Mason. He's going to take the win for race 2. Tyson Hanmer will finish in second, and it is going to be Damon Mulqueen who takes third here with a big move at the final chicane and a slowdown for Hart right at the end. That puts Robert Northway back into fourth.
Well, there you go. Just a wee bit of drama there as your top three. Indeed, Mason, Hanmer, and Mulqueen. You can see that despite the early calamity there for Damon, able to get back through the field. And, well, you thought Tyson Hanmer's lap, fast lap of the race was quick. Let me just bring up Mulqueen's best lap and the best lap of the race outright real quick whilst we've got a chance to quickly do that one there.
Oh, okay. That is qualifying pace there from Damon Mulqueen. That's only 400ths off his qualifying time, in fact. So that really shows you how dominant the pace is in the number 42 here tonight. Well, we can go through
results.
Those results there. Mason taking the win by 3.3 seconds from Tyson Hanmer. Mulqueen, Northway, and Hart are your top 5. Alan Geel comes home behind his teammate. Gorowski finishes 7th. Edwards in 8th. Unfortunately, Brady Baldwin having to, I think he might have either pulled over or had to serve a big penalty there for not clearing the slowdown. It's a lap down for the number 7. And Daniel Mulkenray, unfortunately, not making it to the finish. That's a huge shame there with the mechanical black flag. Lindsay Hobbs as well retiring from that race too. Unfortunately, seems that a few drivers left wanting here tonight, but Henry King, I think, will be enjoying putting his feet up and not having to get into the safety car. Well, it's time for race 3. And this is going to be the results from race 2, effectively setting the grid. We've just gone through those, so nothing new to be said here. With now potentially here, Craig Mason looking to get 2 wins here tonight. But with Mulqueen starting in 3rd, he's not going to have as many cars to work his way through. And Hanmer is looking for a little bit more too.
Yeah, you can see here, just getting around to get the game face on in the number 18, starting on that front row. We'll have the outside of 2-1, but if he can get the start right, stay to that center right side of the road, he can have the apex of turn 2 and contest that there with Mason, I should say. In fact, what I'm going to do is, actually, we'll stay on the outboard shots, of course, because we don't quite know how it's going to go here as the revs rise once again. We'll switch back to the full picture here as we go green for the final race here tonight for 2 Tours. Unfortunately, it's Northway with the bad start in behind, but it looks like your front row are going to have that drag race at turns 1 and 2.
Mason leads into turn 1, but still leaves a bit of room for Tyson Hanmer to get up the inside of the second corner here. And Mulqueen also has to make way for the Honda of Sean Hart on the exit. These guys battled at the end of race 2. Now they're battling at the beginning of race 3 as Hanmer goes into the lead in the first proper chicane of the lap, running all the way out to the wall, pushing incredibly hard here on lap 1.
Yeah, it's a good bit of execution there. Good bit of respect from both of the drivers on the front row as well to add there. And same can be said for the second row. Mulqueen able to fend off Sean Hart without too much of a biff and barge as these drivers get ready to wind back up to speed, as we see here. Going to be under pressure down towards turn 8, but no, Mason rolls out of it there on their way into the brakes. Give himself a bit more space just to eye things up here as we stay on board with the current race leader as they all file through single file through that chicane there. Turns 8 and 9 possibly. Apologies if I'm getting my corner numbers all kinds of wrong here. Is down to La Pringle for the first time as the leaders are through. And a little wide in the background. That's going to allow the Code 9 cars to switch places. Alan Geel through. Also further on back, you've got Brady Baldwin trying to make another recovery drive here. Getting past Isaac Edwards at the Le Pringle hairpin as well. Otherwise, a couple of spots here and there. Mainly Alan Geel up 2 spots. In exchange for Robin Northway losing 2 spots off the start here on this final, or this first lap of this final race.
Indeed. Northway makes up a place for Gorowski as the Code 9 cars are side by side again here, coming out of the chicane. That's not going to work out well for them because through comes Northway. That's a potential slowdown there for Alan Geel. No, it doesn't look like it.
Just ran wide for the World Champions, and as a result, compromise.
Oh, okay. Geel left the door open there, and Baldwin just came in. Eyes ablaze, and through he came. Meanwhile, just behind him, goodness me,
oh,
this is a tight battle. Oh, Gorowski sent into the wall. That was side-by-side contact with Alan Geel, and it looks like that might be potentially alignment. Yeah, that's some very heavy damage.
So unfortunately, indeed, the 326 will have to venture down the pit lane to take repairs, because my word, they are going hammer and tongs among the cars here. Let's go on board with Northway, because in saying that, you've also got Brady Baldwin. Let's see if we can actually swing the camera around. You can do a 360 pan. So there's Baldwin in behind of Northway, but just in front, of course, is Sean Hart here. And you can see good run off of the third chicane here on the lap, as we've also got David Mulcair on the outside of Craig Mason for second place. Up the inside with a little bit of a push in the inside. There goes Northway. So 2 places exchanged there at the Pringle here on lap number 2, Reese, as these battle packs are getting incredibly spicy. Look in the background as well. You've got Alan Geel just ahead of the Meatball Gorowski. Meanwhile, what can Craig Mason do, having just lost the spot to Damon Mulqueen down at the hairpin heel? Look!
Oh, he can hit him in the back! He can hit him in the back is what he can do, unfortunately. A little bit too late on the brakes, and Mulqueen at a standstill.
Oh, Geel runs the cuts the chicane as well. My word, that is a lots of cars having moments. Well, we haven't had need for too many of them, but I do believe this calls for another one of our Virtual Racing School replays, which I'll get to, because Northway's gone through on Mason for second place in all of this. And, well, look at your race leader. Tyson Hammer's gap is 5.5 seconds. He's quite literally sitting pretty here at the moment, as this rest of this group is fighting like their lives depend on it, Reese.
Yeah, great 4-car pack that has eventuated from that one, though. I get the feeling Craig Mason might be getting a penalty from race control for that manoeuvre. Was just too late on the brakes into the final chicane. Baldwin ran a little wide there. That gives a potential move to Daniel Mulcair in the number 69 car just behind him. This is the view on board from Daniel's machine, and he can see those positions right in front of him. It's so tempting to just go ham on the brakes, but you can't in these cars. They have very short braking distances and anti-lock brakes, so sending one up the inside is a possibility, but only if you're this close, only if you're alongside. Just enough room given by Baldwin allows Mulcair around the outside, get on the throttle earlier, get a good run onto the final straight before the hairpin. But it doesn't look like it's translated into the run that Mulcair needs.
No, it hasn't. Apologies here. I'm trying to get this little battle pack to actually show up so we can just look at the little gaps in between these drivers. They all work their way down into the Wall of Champions once more. Take this nice overhead. We'll watch them all fly on through. Baldwin's a little deep there. We'll see. I think he gets away with the glancing blow in these cars like that, but and has picked up, well, no mechanical black flag, no slowdowns for his troubles as this group carries on. Actually picked up a couple of tenths on, well, should I say that, and they come out of turn 2 and they go back to basically where they were on that last lap. So, well, I'd say we keep calm and carry on, but that would be a ball-faced lie there, Reese, as Craig Mason's going to rub the wall in the exit of turn number 4 for his own troubles, and Mulcair showing the nose on Baldwin through the little kink there of turn 5.
Yep, that looked like a pretty substantial hit to the wall for Mason, but he stays within a car length or so of Robert Northway, and there could still potentially be a move on. You'll be thinking, well, Mason, is my car still driving straight? Will I suffer aerodynamically down the flat-out sections? Well, we can see the Northway is starting to gain a little bit more, so obviously Craig Mason a little bit rattled by that. Baldwin tries to take advantage, has a big look up the inside. That turns into a defense from Daniel Mulkenray, but again, no positions changed, and Mulkenray, he can only try and take advantage of the slipstream as best he can, and I think he senses a potential move here between Baldwin and Mason, so he'll sit back and let them sort this out. However much contact may or may not be involved. Baldwin sticks on the inside,
Mason.
but oh,
Black flag from race control for the contact on lap number 2 there.
Oh yeah,
with Damon Mulqueen. So there we go, race control getting into it pretty quick there. So unfortunately for Craig, that one deemed a slam dunk penalty not in his favour.
All right, well, that takes a little bit of the fire out of the belly of this battle, but not all of it, because we've still got 3 cars trying to share the same piece of racetrack here. The top 4 all Hyundai Elantras, and if you extend it to Lindsay Hobbs and the Veloster, it's an all Hyundai top 5. Sean Hart is the first non-Hyundai with 6th place currently in the 610 Honda Civic. Mulkenray right here. Looks like he's setting up a crisscross, a little bit of a straighter exit out of that chicane, but it hasn't worked out for him once again. He's trying his hardest here to get past Baldwin, but everything he's doing here, Baldwin has a response to.
Yeah, you can see there's this whole game of where do you set your car up. The answer for Mulkenray is going to be potentially here on the exit of turn number 9. So work the way down to Le Pringle is going to be forced around the outside, but what that might do is just expose Baldwin to being vulnerable.
Oh dear. Baldwin.
And they nearly take out Northway in the process, and then the cover on the way out. Oh boy, absolutely nothing being left on the table here by any of these drivers, it seems, when it comes to attack and defense.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of racing you get in TCR machines. That's really given an advantage to Northway here. Baldwin trying to defend from Mulkenray. He was just too late on the brakes for the hairpin. Ended up running very deep. Mulkenray turned in, expecting Baldwin to do the same, but that's not how it worked out. Here's the battle for 5th, meanwhile. Looks like Honda is looking to break the Hyundai top 5 stranglehold here with Sean Hart on the back of Lindsay Hobbs, and battle going on in the background. It looks like that's Damon Mulqueen getting past Alan Geel into the first corner, but Mulqueen then runs wide in turn 2 and allows Geel back through, but slightly wider and straighter run out of the corner. Advantage Mulqueen once again, but he's on the outside for the chicane, and these sections of the track are as single file as you can imagine.
Yeah, you definitely don't be trying to go too wide, especially in cars like this. You can maybe, if you get a really good run, you get up the inside here at turn number 6, but still really gambling on making something work where it might not. Just, you can see it actually is completely splintered what was kind of a group of 4 into most definitely 2 sets of 2. As to the inside, Mulqueen will look down this back stretch up alongside under brakes as Gio will try and defend that, and in fact does get a nice run through the second part of the chicane, but all the same, I'm looking behind centre on Mulqueen's car. I do believe that should be moved more or less done, and indeed, yeah, Gio first on the brakes. Might be able to try and get back up the inside. In fact, does try to get up the inside, Reese, but no, Mulqueen, very capable operator of these cars, gets that car pulled up and stopped on the apex just as he would like.
Indeed, the crisscross was very much stymied there. The battle is still on for 5th. Meanwhile, Lindsay Hobbs, that looked a bit late on the brakes there for Sean Hart, but he managed to pull it up in time to coming into the back of Hobbs. But now he's starting to see how challenging it is to try and make a move in these cars. You have to try and get a good run out of a corner and be alongside before you have a hope of getting past in a braking zone. These aren't the kinds of cars where you can just send it from a few car lengths back and get away with it. It almost always ends up in disaster.
yeah, there is that sort of fact you have to contend with. There's also the issue of the fact that, well, you need to be wary of, say, like not having a driver that catch you from behind. There we go. Yep, there we do. In fact, we'll make it 4 because Alan Gilles kind of in this still, but looks apologies, running, dropping a bit behind the wheels. Actually, we'll cut that back to 3 because Mulqueen just on the fringes of the slipstream, but with Sean Hart getting the toe here off of Lindsay Hobbs, who we ride on board with. The gap will open up slightly down the straight, but a little better on the way into the corners and actually better on the way out of that one as well. Picks up a good chunk of time through the middle of the turn there, Reese does Mulqueen. So if he can keep that up, he'll be just in the toe proper. Give it, I think, another lap or so once they get back to the Pringle again. As you'll see, the gap open back up under acceleration, but again, he's closed it under brakes. Takes another 1/10 and a half out of these two.
Yeah, and at a track like Montreal, the Hyundai Elantra is actually a very good car to have. There's been a lot of debate recently about the balance of performance and TCR. Of course, Hart not having much trouble getting by Hobbs there. Got to be careful coming into the chicane though. The Honda is notorious for not liking bumps and curb strikes, and at a track like Montreal, that can be a great disadvantage. That said, I think Hart's doing a very good job keeping that car up in the top 5 now. Mulqueen, though, in the longer wheelbase, more stable Hyundai Elantra, starting to gain on the Veloster of Lindsay Hobbs. This is a fantastic fight.
Yeah, look at them working their way through the chicane here. Start this up, I have to say. A little bit more composed from Dan Mulqueen. What I will have to do, though, is take our attention back to the scrap for, look at this here, 3 cars fighting over second place. Bring it up here on your screen. Robert Northway, Brady Baldwin, Daniel Mulkenray going at it here. Your 2nd, 3rd and 4th Elantras on the road as well as, well, it's just 2nd, 3rd and 4th outright on the road as well. Here, Reese, as you can see, the game of who can get the best run off the turn. Baldwin's not really close enough to worry about getting up Northway. What about Mulkenray to the inside here, though, at Le Pringle? Whoa. Will be given the space. And place taken, but can the crisscross happen here on exit? See what Mulkenray can do in terms of getting the slipstream. He does cover off there. So place taken, good move there from the number 69 Alpha Venturi Racing Machine.
Yeah, but Baldwin's not quite done with this, is he? He's getting a tiny bit of side draft as well down the straight. They barely leave each other room there, but just enough given on the way into the chicane. Mulkenray bumps Baldwin and sends him wide. Brady might not be too happy with that, but he had a red-hot go at going around the outside. Unfortunately, not working out for him. He'll have to settle for 4th at this point, I think, because it's the final lap, and the only way he can gain positions from here is if the 2 cars ahead of him come together. Hanmer has absolutely run away with this. He's over 6 seconds in the lead, and he's just keeping it nice and smooth, riding those curves beautifully. Not much that anyone behind him can do from here. Meanwhile, looks like Mulqueen, having gotten by Lindsay Hobbs, is right on the back of Sean Hart for 6th place. We'll see what they can do. Very nice run for Northway, Mulqueen. Defensive from Hart, meanwhile. I'm getting my Elantras confused, but the Honda of Hart tried to go defensive. He is really on a defensive run here on the final lap, and I get the feeling that Mulqueen is just watching and waiting for the opportunity to strike. Let's see how the exit is from the chicane on the way down to the hip. Good straight line run there from Mulqueen. He'll have to go to the outside, but as we've seen many times tonight, that is not a disadvantage. Sticks it in, rotates. Lovely straight run. Look at that. That is beautiful. And he gets the move done by the time they get onto the straight proper. Magnificent stuff. But through the final chicane will come Tyson Hanmer after a couple of races of varying fortunes. There it is. There's the finger of victory. Tyson Hanmer takes the 3rd win of the night. Brilliant stuff. And oh no! Northway got a slowdown right out of the final corner. Looks like Brady Baldwin has taken second place out of all that. Mulkenray got a slowdown as well.
Well, there's several things happen there all of a sudden, yeah. I'm seeing, Mulkenray, Northway, Sean Hart, and Damon Mulqueen.
Mulkenray and Northway came together. Mulkenray and Northway came together into the chicane. I think that might deserve a replay if you can cue one up, Dan, because, they had side-by-side contact in the braking zone.
All right, you bet we will pull this one up. Oh, well, those will cut back to that one there first, and then...
I can't believe we missed that.
Cue the replay. Well, we were giving Tyson a moment on the air there, and we've gone... Right, we've gone back a bit far, because unfortunately it cut to static cams on us there, but let's have a look at this here, the final lap of the race. So, indeed, Northway leads Mulkenray into the Pringle.
Yeah, Mulkenray does the Mulqueen move, or at least tries to. And he ended up getting a really good exit, but Northway was right on the defensive there, blocking his advances, and Mulkenray then was forced to try and take the outside. In the slipstream, he draws alongside coming into the braking zone. Now watch this. Looks like Northway was expecting Mulkenray to be a little bit more to the left, but they come together.
Just as the cameras switch over on us as well. Annoying. Oh, I tried to switch to a better angle of that one there, so now both drivers cut the chicane. Brady Baldwin says, yeah, I'll have second place out of all that.
Well then.
And separate to all of that, there's been a separate incident here for this. Oh, there we go. So as I said, there was a separate incident going on for this group of cars. So here we go. So Sean Hart with the lunge up the inside of Damon Mulqueen, and as a result, bodily contact will send both of them wide at the World Champions, and it's Lindsay Hobbs who will also get the shot through and gets the 2-for-1 freebie up the inside there. So how about that? Wow. Two drivers making big gains there at the end of that one, thanks to the scrapping all the way to the line. Let's cut to the race results here, and we'll take a short break after that before we get into our next race. And well, the numbers look pretty convincing once again here in this one, Reese, but certainly it's been a case of the leaders have been allowed to check out, and this time it was Tyson Hanneman's turn to take that race win, which means we have ourselves 3 race winners for the evening here in Two Liter Tours. It certainly has not been a dominant evening, despite what the pace monitor suggested tonight earlier on.
Absolutely not. Tyson Hanma, 8.2 seconds ahead of Brady Baldwin, taking advantage of the incident between Northway and Mulkenray. Lindsay Hobbs calling Lindsay Bradbury. That was an excellent bit of driving there to get past Mulqueen and Hart, who came together at the final chicane. Geel comes home in 8th, with Isaac Edwards the last car to finish on the lead lap. Craig Mason a lap down, unfortunately having to serve a penalty for contact on lap 2, and Simon Gorowski coming off second best after a run into the outside wall coming out of the first chicane. Well, at the very least, we got some great excitement there out of 2 Liter Tours. That's going to end the first portion of the night, but we are nowhere near done here on SimSpeed TV. It is time to switch over to the V8s for the second lot of racing here tonight at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, round 1 of the Wilson's Industrial Sales V8SCOPS Support Series for 2023.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. visit iRacing.com.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
You're watching SimSpeed TV, the V8SCOPS support series for 2023, presented by Wilson's Industrial Sales. It was already some fantastic racing tonight here in the 2-litre Tourers, but not without its shares of drama. We've got race 1 winner Damon Mulqueen with us in the box. Well, Damon, that was a good performance from you in qualifying and in race 1. Didn't quite work out for you in races 2 and 3, but it still looked like there was a lot of action, a lot to keep you interested out there.
Yeah, luckily the guys at Energy Sim Racing, they've prepped some bloody good cars for me in recent times, and tonight was no different. Yeah, just lucky to, be clear of the mess in race 1, and then unfortunately getting caught up in the hairpin with some contact with other cars and whatnot. And then again in race 3 decided, we'll just give it a big old send, see what the car can really do, and I think I was the only one to sort of pop into the minute 45 lap time. So really happy with the car. The guys have prepped for me and Brady. Brady's got a wee bit of work to do just in getting used to these cars, as he hasn't driven these very much. But yeah, looking forward to the rest of the season.
Yeah, as are we. Really good to see, at least in terms of the way the results stack up, that pretty much anyone can win a race in the 2-litre Tourers. You do have the pace advantage for now. Do you think you can maintain it?
I'd like to hope I can maintain it, but at the same time, if I'm the quickest guy out there consistently, I'd like to hope that everyone else can raise themselves up to the level, kind of like what the KSR crew did towards the end of last season. It was, absolutely great fun battling them. It's unfortunate not as many of them have come back for 2-litre Tourers this season. But I'm looking forward to seeing, who's the other gang that's going to be coming through and whatnot, and hopefully they enjoy racing against me as much as I enjoy racing against them when that time comes.
Indeed. Well, that might happen pretty soon with the Bathurst 6 Hour coming up on the 26th of March. What are your plans for that one? You and Brady, obviously, with the Synergy Sim Racing crew there. Will you guys be teaming up for that?
We haven't fully decided yet. We might try and plug in a couple of other guys from the team to come and give us a hand for that, just so that possibly can maximise our own sort of performances, given where we are pace-wise, quite closer towards the time. We'll evaluate from there, but the first thing we've got to do is try and get the day off work for that. Yeah, that's going to be the first priority, and then second priority will be sorting out what's going to go on with the 6 Hour.
All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us here, Damon, as we've advanced into qualifying for the V8s. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to thank for your results?
Look, seriously, I just got to thank the guys at Synergy. As I said before, they've prepped really great cars for me in the recent months, especially with another series venture that I'm doing at the moment. It's been amazing the support they've put behind me, as well as all our sponsors. As you guys will already know, there's quite a few of them there, so they all know who they are. Can't thank them enough. And then to the new series sponsors for the support series. They help us do what we enjoy doing, and to you guys in the broadcast booth and whatnot, because you guys make the calls of the racing a lot more interesting than what I could.
Thanks very much, Damon Mulqueen, for joining us, and we hope we get another chance to chat with him very soon. Well, Reese Gardner here with Dan Yeaman in the comms box and handling production as before. Dan, it is time to get into the V8s. They are on their outlaps in qualifying at the moment, and it's a bit of a switch up in terms of format from the 2-litre Tourers. 9-lap races. We've got 2 of them coming up, and we've got a compulsory pit stop in each.
We sure do indeed. This is, 2 formats on display for this opening night of the racing, which is great to see that we're getting some variety. What we just had for the 202 is what we call the triple sprint format, and what we're seeing here for the V8s, or what we will see, I should say, for the V8s is going to be the 80 split sprint format. So yeah, that is the big deal, of course. Compulsory pit stop in V8SCOPS supports all the main game. As you'll see on Sunday, it will mean that you need to take at least 2 tyres when your car comes into the box, but as is certainly been the long time sort of expectation, you'll just take the 4 tyres. You don't lose much, if any, time stationary to do so, and you end up with a car that is certainly a fair bit more balanced in the process. And you certainly don't want to have one of these cars getting loose underneath you because you gambled on 2 tyres when you could have gone for the safe option of 4, I dare suggest, Reese.
Yep, 4 tyres takes the same amount of time in the pits as 2, so it would be very strange to see drivers take only 2 tyres in their compulsory pit stop. But if they're having issues with the balance of their car, then maybe that might be the way to go. We'll have to wait and see. Either way, they are out on track at the moment, and this, looking forward, of course, looking forward to, before we get into the qualifying action, this is the calendar for the V8s. 11 rounds for this one. We've got a sneaky to be determined round on November the 3rd, depending on a potential future track release by iRacing. But we've got the 80-80 format. We've got a 60-60 sprint at Sebring for round 2 on the 17th of March, and then 2 triple 60s. We've also got a 600k race at Oschersleben for round 6. Oschersleben, one of the newest tracks on the iRacing service, and I have to say, that's an interesting choice there for an endurance round.
It certainly is, and I think it'd be very cute to see how it works out. Apologies there. I'm currently doing a bit of a mad dash scramble to make sure I've got audio levels set right. This is my first time covering, as a producer, the V8s, which means that I've been given all my camera packs from SimSpeed head honcho Jay Kennedy, but I come in here and I find that, at least from my opinion, the audio levels could do with a bit of adjustment. So what I'm going to keep doing here is I'm just going to keep rifling through the cameras and get them to a point where I think they're not going to burst both of our eardrums, and to all those watching along with us here this evening. And once I've got that sorted, and hopefully that'll take me about another 20 seconds tops, then I'll cut to our qualifying footage as drivers are starting to get their first laps on the board.
Indeed. Looking through to the end of the season as well, we've got the triple 60 at Long Beach for the V8SCOPS Endurance Cup round. That is going to be a fun one. Short and sharp races at a tight street circuit. Have to say, that will be quite the magnificent spectacle. And of course, back to the same format as we see tonight for the final round at Road America, which always puts up a really good bit of racing action. For the final round of the season, the traditional final round of the V8SCOPS season over the years. Also seeing that we have a 250k coming up at Bathurst as well. That will be a difficult one for the drivers, but I guess not as difficult as the drivers in the V8SCOPS 1000 will find it. Either way, a fantastic calendar, and I can't wait to see what that TBD turns into. There's been quite a few tracks teased by iRacing in the last few months. Of course, we had Manicourt released recently. We had Oschersleben released recently. That's on the calendar. Also saw that the Circuito de Jerez was teased as well. We saw the scan data for that track on iRacing's Twitter. Traditional Formula 1 testing venue, that one, and famous for the 1997 European Grand Prix, where Jacques Villeneuve and Michael Schumacher came together in one of the most controversial championship finishes ever. But there's plenty to be decided here as the drivers are now in qualifying. Before we go to live pictures, I'll just update you on what the qualifying standings are looking like at the moment. Aaron Gilbert, the reigning champion of the series, has come off 2 V8s championships in a row. He is currently the quickest. He's half a second ahead of Gavin Cox, the 555 from Middle Finger Racing. Liam Wilde, Tim Nicol, and Henry King round out your top 5 qualifying times at the moment. And behind Wilde and Nicol, things are looking incredibly close. There's only 0.03 of a second separating Jason Spriggs from Daniel Stevens, 6th and 7th. And we've got a very close field spread. The slowest drivers to set competitive times so far being in the high 1 minute 38s. Lindsay Hobbs has yet to set a time that he is happy with out on the circuit. But the first qualifying runs for the drivers are complete, and they've all pulled back into the pits and will be getting ready very shortly for their second attempt at a qualifying run. And it's going to come very thick and fast because 7 minutes have now elapsed in the session. We'll only be able to see one more run at a hot lap from these guys.
Yep, that is very true indeed. Apologies for the delay there on getting you the pictures from the live session. In my haste to jump out of the 2-litre tourist server, it caused the overlay to basically have a freak out and decide it wouldn't display the updated data here from the V8 server. But there we go. Fixed that up now. So this is indeed the live session and also the data coming from this server, of course. Just quickly pull something off screen here real quick as we are actually multitude. Yeah, this is it. The 2-litre Tourers, the Grand Tourer, and the Flat 4s, which you'll see tomorrow, along with the Flat 6s, I should say. Pardon me, correction. 2-litre Tourers, Grand Tourer, Flat 4s, all supported by Wilson's Industrial Sales this year. Big thanks to everyone at Wilson's Industrial Sales for coming on board to support those 3 categories in particular. But the V8s, well, actually advised just before the broadcast to be confirmed, hopefully shortly there in that respect. But so at this stage tonight, actually got the Holden Ford stock banners on these cars here at this point in time. So a little different to what we're used to here in V8SCOPS. Let's just focus in here. Gavin Cox.
Problem for Lindsay Hobbs.
Oh yeah, that's well.
Oh,
yeah,
and there's been further contact there. Looks like Shane Bowen has gotten into the back of Hobbs there going through the chicane. So Bowen is going to have to request a tow from race control. His engine is billowing smoke. There he is. Unfortunate there for Bowen. Looks like he might just be able to make it back to the pits there, but that's going to potentially ruin every driver's final qualifying lap. We'll see how they go. This is the final proper runs here at qualifying. And we'll see who manages to take pole position. Aaron Gilbert is the one with the advantage at the moment. He's still nearly half a second ahead of Gavin Cox in second, and Gilbert is looking to improve on his fastest time here. Coming through. Oh no, that looks like that might be a 0x, and lap invalidated for a provisional pole setup. But he doesn't have too much to worry about, has a great gap to the rest of the field. Similar story to Damon Mulqueen in the 2-litre Tourers, as that is the end of the session. They will not be able to get their final laps in.
Indeed, yes.
So that's going to bring us into the grid for the first of our 2 19-lap races with a compulsory pit stop for at least 2 tyres. Front row is Aaron Gilbert and Gavin Cox, with Daniel Stevens joining his teammate there of Cox in 3rd place alongside Liam Wilde. Tim Nicol shares the 3rd row with Aaron Gilbert's teammate Henry King, who has jumped out of the race control seat and into the race seat for this one. Jason Spriggs and Stephen Varga are 7th and 8th at the moment. 9th and 10th will be Nick McMillan and Dean Alessi, with BJ O'Keefe, Brett O'Keefe there, starting alongside Scott Stevens in car 51.
Indeed, and over the page, and well, I have to say, nothing on the 2-litre Tourers, guys, but the field here for the V8s has been quite extensive, and we'll go past 15 rows of cars. Jamie Davis and Shane Bowen, they're going to share that 7th row. Speaking of it, and we get to the halfway point of the field thereabouts with Jeremy Maxwell, Darren Crosby, Colin Bruns and Craig Mason on the first 9 rows here tonight, with the top 20 rounded out by Brandon Groch and Danny Vassell there in the 77 and 97, respectively. Ben Henniker, Jeremy Bush, Dylan Budzany, apologies Dylan, it looks like I'm going to have a real roll here on picking up names poorly, and your final race winner of 2 Tours, Tyson Hammer, will be starting out at 24th place for this first of the V8's races here, and final couple of drives to set a qualifying time here tonight included Anthony Green, or Ants Green there, Liam Budd sharing that 13th row with him there, and Lindsay Hobbs, the final car that did get a lap on the board. They'll be joined on the grid by Joe Mahoney, Lachlan Holland, Troy Sipple, Sean Slater, and Peter Pavlovich to make it 32 drivers going to be on the grid. Brett Loxton there in the 00 car is your Porsche 911 GT3 Cup safety car should be required. And look at that. We've nailed the timing to a T here, Reese. The revs rise. It's time to get the V8s underway.
It is indeed. Green flag flies and we are away. That is not the greatest of starts there from the Holden of Liam Wild. They go 3 wide on the way into turn 1. Who is going to come out second best from here? It's like a pack of sardines making their way through the first couple of turns. Aaron Gilbert leads the way out of turn 1. He's already gotten a good gap over the middle finger pair of Cox and Stevens. And slotting in behind Tim Nicol is Jason Spriggs. Stephen Varga makes up a position on Nick McMillan, who goes for a big stare in the background of the purple and black car. Almost lets Liam Wild through, but has to go defensive here into the first chicane. Plenty of interesting moves being made throughout this field. Dean Alessi, let's see what he can do to get an advantage over Liam Wild there as the field forms into single file. Looks like there's been a problem for Lachlan Horan. He has unfortunately given up a couple of spots further back, just giving the position to Sean Slater in car 39, and Dylan Budzany has gotten heavy damage in the Locked On Lads 295 car. He has found the wall. Looks like there was a bit of a crush out of turn 2. Yeah, big oversteer moment for Jeremy Maxwell, and that absolutely sent Budzany into the wall. Into the hairpin they come then, and it's side by side throughout the field as the first big moves of the race are being made. Up front, though, it's advantage Aaron Gilbert.
It is indeed. Look at the gap here. It's a couple of car lengths, which isn't all that much, but it works out to 9/10 of a second there or thereabouts. And look how quickly Henry King has cut his way through to the front of this field. Well, up 2 spots, I should say. It's not exactly a massive climb, but at the same time, drivers like Liam Wild has dropped down 7 spots now on this opening lap. Jamie Davis, unfortunately, is being absolutely turfed, and that will be because of not a slowdown, I don't think, unless he cleared it just as I went to check on him. Unfortunately, one of our 2 auto serve racing cars here in the field tonight, now down 11 spots from his starting place to 24th. Definitely a rough night out as they come through. You can see there someone also cutting the course earlier on, and look at that there ahead. Got several cars duking it out side by side. The 308 of Anthony Green there has Jeremy Bush around the outside of him here. Reese, looks like Anthony not looking to fight too hard as this pack of cars all tries to cut through here. Lindsay Hobbs in this group, Handler, Davis, Henniker, Mahoney. A huge number of drivers all vying for the same track position here. Look at them on the brakes before turn 8, causing everyone to have to check up and make sure they pull things up in time. Here is off goes Bush through the chicane.
Yep, that's a problem for a second Locked On Lads car there tonight, so that then allows Anthony Green, I think, got a slowdown there. He's going to have to give way to the auto serve car of Davis at the very least. Hanma makes contact with him through the hairpin. It was just outside of frame, but it looks like they've worked themselves out there on the exit. That is a big oversteer moment there from Anthony Green, and he will potentially lose even more out of that now and lose touch with the autoserve cars already in the pits.
Oh my!
Daniel Stevens.
We've missed something, Reese, because this is not just coming into the pits. This is coming in due to a mechanical black flag already.
Oh no!
For the driver of the number 3 middle finger racing machine, Dean Alessi also got entangled in something and got himself an iRacing black flag penalty.
I'm seeing what happened to Stevens, I think. It was on the downshift coming into the chicane. He over-revved the engine and blew it.
Oh, that's the most cruel way to go about the mechanical black flag in these cars. Unfortunately, many a victim falls foul of over-revving the motor on the downshift with these cars. Very limited, if not, if any, downshift protection here, Reese, and as a result, yeah, even with the engine in more or less pitch-perfect condition, that's got away from him very clear. Dylan Budzenny, also, yep, that locked-on lads Falcon there, definitely in the wars. That won't be coming out anytime soon, I think. But iRacing black flags here for the 34 middle finger car of Dean Alessi, and the 308 there of Anthony is actually in the lane to either take a pit stop or serve that penalty now. Combination of the two. And he's actually, there you go, service complete on his way. That actually will count as his compulsory pit stop. Got it done at the first opportunity. Meanwhile, plenty more scrapping up and down the field this year. The fight for 12th place between, we've got 3 drivers here going at it. There we go. Brandon Groch, Danny Vassell, and Colin Bruns as they head down into the War of Champions race.
Yep, indeed. It looks like Groch is going to come through best in the very striking juiced liveried car, at least on my end. The 2 cars of Vassell and Bruns, meanwhile, it looks like they are sub-teammates at Middle Finger Racing, trying to work their way back through, and that is a little bit wide on the exit from Brandon Groch. Unfortunately, there was nothing Vassell could do to get past him at that stage. Really awesome to see such a big field in the V8s category. It means there is racing absolutely everywhere you look, and it looks like it's starting to heat up for second. Gavin Cox still holding on versus Henry King, but King just made a mistake coming out of the chicane there onto the back stretch, showing that he has great pace. It's a similar case to last season where it was middle finger versus Jinx Shifters up at the front of the field, but the Jinx Shifters cars are the ones with the advantage here in numbers.
Yeah, they sure are. I mean, it would certainly be, it would have been a fair fight, an even fight. At this point in the race, apologies there. I've myself a bit distracted there and not switch the graphics around to show the gap between Cox and King here as they work their way up the casino straight away to end lap number 4. Now, is that on the limiter there in 6th for King? Let's see if I can actually pan this camera over whilst we're in the car. Okay, not quite. It is barely in shot though. We might try and pick up a different angle on board next time these cars are coming down the casino straight away there, and actually see and pick up. There's another driver. Yep, Stephen Varga is going to come to the pit lane in the 868 machine. So he'll be one of our first drivers up towards the front of the field, not for repairs, but to actually get the CPS done early here and try and get out on fresh tyres whilst the iron is hot.
Yeah, indeed. And there's a lot of thinking that goes into when you decide to take your mandatory pit stop. There's plenty of racing still going on, though, here coming into the chicane. Up the inside, Craig Mason on Colin Bruns, and Darren Crosby gets involved in it as well. Oh, goodness me. The auto-serve car of Jamie Davis had to really back out of it there, as it's defensive now from Crosby, and it looks like he's defended that nicely. Yeah, let's talk strategy for a second. Hopefully nothing big happens while I'm talking about this. Pit window opens at the end of lap 2, so you know, when you're coming up to the pit lane on lap 2, you can jump in. The pit window closes 2 laps from the end. So the last time we're going to be seeing drivers come in is the end of lap 17. And, you know, there's plenty to think about in terms of tyre performance. The tyres drop off quite quickly in these cars, but if you can drive conservatively and keep up good pace, then you might be able to go for a pit stop in the middle of the race and lose as little time as possible. But pitting early, like we saw Stephen Varga do, that will give him an advantage here in the early stages. He's got some clear air with everyone so close together. That will work out for him later on.
Yeah, it will, and that's the thing. You got to gamble on, well, can you run long on a set of tyres and still look after them? Do you want to try and run that long stint early? Do you want to run a long stint late in the race? As Danny Vassell, who I'm just seeing showing a nose potentially into the World Champions. Unfortunately, picked up a slowdown for his troubles, hopping the curbs there through the final corner. It hasn't cleared it yet, so he needs to be careful not to fall afoul of what we saw as also noting Lindsay Hobbs, the 27. I believe some of the Commodores here tonight. Excalibur Esports entry has looked at that. Slowdown penalty. Clear that slowdown, Danny. We're getting right to the point of the track where that's going to be risky. And he's got the penalty once again, just like we saw in the two Tours. Stretched it. You can stretch it only so far before it will bite.
Yeah, that's a shame. That's going to be positions lost there. Meanwhile, Henry King, well, I mentioned that he was getting close to Gavin Cox for second earlier. Doesn't seem to have worked out for him. He's actually falling back into the clutches of Nicol and Spriggs here for the battle for third. This is going to be interesting in the first half of this race. I can't believe that we are coming up to 6 laps completed here as Gilbert exits the final chicane. So much has happened in just the space of 6 laps here, and it's very close here between Nicol and Spriggs. Will either of them be able to hold on for a crack at P3 later on? Oh, Henry King taking a lot out of the curb there. In fact, they're all taking quite a bit of curb at the first corner. That's very close to getting a slowdown, but it seems all 3 of them avoided it for now.
Yeah, unfortunately, got some bad news for one of our drivers who's coming over from the Tours. In fact, unfortunately, before I can give the bad news, Tyson Hammer's already in the lane. Now, does this mean potentially got a bit overzealous on the way into the pit lane? Because, well, I'll bring up the bad news.
He's got huge damage as well to the front end. iRacing black flag, as we can see. I don't know what's gone on there. Hanmer, yeah, where did he pick up that damage?
Well, I've got an incident log in my timing, so you know what? Let's take a moment to go and grab that on the Virtual Racing School replay here tonight. We'll just back up the replay.
That was a while ago
here
for Hanmer. Looks like it was back on lap 2.
It is, yeah. So here comes the replay. Hopefully we've given
lap
it enough
3.
time. So, yep. Oh, apologies. That's not cut to the replay like I hoped it would. Boom. We are on replay, folks. So, oh no, self-spin.
Oh.
And now the thing is, it's not a mechanical black flag he's picked up. So he's got this damage, and then in a cruel twist of pain, he's then gone and got another iRacing penalty on his way. Unfortunately, it means all the same in that he will be many laps off the lead of the race. We'll have to cut back to him. Hopefully he can recover for race 2.
Incident limit, maybe.
It would be, well, it's either incident limit or slowdown. They're the only 2 reasons you can get a black flag short of race control intervention. And I can see the in-game chat. There has been no penalties from race control manually administered so far in this opening race tonight. So there are only 2 ways that penalty could have been issued. I mean, that, or had he come into the pits and made a mistake on pit entry. There is that as well.
Yeah, there definitely is. Could potentially have been speeding on the way into the pits as well, because I did notice that Hanmo, when I was scrolling back through the replay, was having a lot of issues with rear end locking in some of the heavier braking zones. Either way, that's going to be the end of his story for now. The story is still in the build-up phase here in the battle for third. Nicol and Spriggs, they are a little bit further apart now, so things have calmed down a little bit in this fight. But now, I guess, with them spreading out like this, they'll be thinking about strategy. Will an undercut or an overcut be possible here under these conditions? Just looking at the track conditions for a second, 24 degrees Celsius track temperature. Now that is quite a low track temperature, which means that there is potential for an overcut there if they can keep the pace down. But usually the undercut is the way to go, as we see another car coming into the pit lane. It looks like both Henry King and Scott Stevens have taken to the lane this time, as we check out the Zoom feed of Shane Bowen, who has just overtaken Stevens in the pits. He and his Cobalt Racing teammate Nick McMillan both out there sharing the same bit of track with Brandon Grotch, and they are the last few places in the top 10.
They are now. Unfortunately, my window capture doesn't quite pick it up. But you can just kind of get an idea of what we've got as part of the Zoom feed from Shane Bowen tonight. Oh, apart from a good look at the Fanatec steering hardware there being used. You can also get a glimpse of the virtual reality headset. But off there on the left side of the frame, Reese actually got a heart rate monitor overlaid on top of Shane's camera tonight. And actually just ticking over 100 beats per minute. I can confirm it's 103 being displayed and then just backing down to 102. So you can see, seems to be at a relative state of calm at this point. Obviously, I mean, you can see there are the two drivers behind in the form of Nick McNeil and Brandon Groch. But they seem to be sort of getting up in each other's arms, and Shane has about 3.5 seconds to catch if he wants to get on the bumper of Brett O'Keefe. So in a bit of a quiet spot for the time being as Bowen as he works his way around the Pringle hairpin one more time. Coming up on halfway in the race as well. So might be seeing drivers who want to go for that split down the middle perfectly and not try and have to worry about tyre conservation come into play. We'll see here if drivers peel off into the pits in a second. And indeed, Tim Nichols come in this time by. So just grab him and bring him up on screen as there is the 23 machine coming into the lane for his service. He's followed in by Jason Spriggs, Brett O'Keefe, and Nick McMillan as well on this lap as well. Here, Reese.
Yeah, McMillan just pitting behind his teammate Bowen, and I always find it funny that Bowen's heart rate monitor is kind of cut off there, because I'm thinking it'd be concerning if it was just 2 digits there, 3 or 2 beats per minute. How would that work unless Bowen is an extraterrestrial life form? Gilbert versus Cox. The gap has ballooned out to 5 seconds. Aaron Gilbert has shown himself over the last 2 years running to be the prime driver in this category in the V8SCOPS League. And he is the winningest driver of them all at the moment. And his pace really shows that. He can just get in that thing and race. Speaking of racing, battle for 5th, with Jamie Davis now trying to hold off both Henry King and Brandon Groch. King, of course, having taken his pit stop already. He's 1.5 laps now into his final stint of this first race, and those fresh tyres are starting to work out beautifully for him. Even now here at the halfway point, you're seeing a huge pace difference between drivers who have just pitted and drivers who haven't. Fresh tyres are everything in these cars.
They sure are. Now, actually, in all of that one there, Brandon Groch in the 77 Commodore there in this sort of the mid-ground of the shot. He was the one actually in front, as we'll see here. Jamie Davis will shoot past the normal brake marker into the lane for him there in the number 92, and Groch will follow on through. So that will release Henry King to net, pardon me, third on the road. Still obviously net second in that case. As dear me, no, make it actually second because Liam Wild has also come into the lane. So a huge sway the drivers basically splitting this race right on down the middle here to at least maybe gauge an idea of where this one's at. We'll see now. It's quite a space field. In fact, it just basically leaves Aaron Gilbert. Sean Slater is the other driver along with Peter Pavlovich, and well, Peter brings his car down the lane. So there is literally now just 2 drivers left in the form of Gilbert and Slater, both rocking the Wilson's Industrial Tools branding as part of, jig shifters for Aaron, and I believe it's ANZ Motorsport for Sean Slater there. And in fact, I can probably confirm that by literally going there. Nope, racing under the Wilson's Industrial Racing team name for V8s here this year is.
But you can see also there's RA2 sponsorship on that car, which has been a long-time sponsor of ANZ Motorsports. Slater involved in a fight there and having to let Brett O'Keefe go. O'Keefe is one of the drivers who's only pitted recently, 1.5 laps ago. So the undercut is on for him. And speaking of the undercut, you mentioned that Henry King has come out in net second. Well, just as King was making his way out of turn 2, Gavin Cox came out of the pits. So the undercut has worked out magnificently for Henry King there. He was about a second or so behind Gavin Cox when we looked at him before he came into the lane. Now, Cox 1.4 seconds behind King. So Let's see what King can do here to manage his tyres towards the end. There's still 8 laps to go in this race, and King's tyres will be starting to show their age very soon. Currently on the 4th lap of his stint, the tyres are only really good for maximum pace for about that long, and that's if you're pushing 100% all the way. So King is going to have to get into conservation mode here now. Let's see if he has the pace.
And Slater's come to the lane as well, Reese, while we're checking out this final second. So it leaves Aaron Gill, the one driver, choosing not to pit just yet. Now this is going to be interesting because, well, actually, let me bring up, I'll jump actually on board with him. Hughes will need to be with him for this. I'm going to go to my lovely little thing here and give me one moment to type some extra text data into there, and then bang, boom, boom.
Yep, big gap there, or big time delta gained, and Gilbert's gotten the message because he's just come into the lane himself. Let's see then where Gilbert comes out. He's just pulled into his pit box now at the very end of pit lane. Pole position, of course, gets the final pit stall at the end of pit lane, and Gilbert's gotten that service done very quickly. King comes into the first turn and pit exit, cuts turn 1. So Gilbert will come out still in the race lead by about 2.5 seconds. King versus Cox, meanwhile, looks like it's starting to come down in Gavin Cox's favour, though. The gap is now under a second between the two of them. So we've still got a race for second on here, Dan.
We sure do indeed. And in fact, you know, I'll just quickly see if I can get this to work nicely for me. So there's your top 3 on the road now, all having had a pit service complete at various times. So Aaron Gilbert, I expect he will put down an absolute heater of a lap at some point in the not too distant future. But yes, inside of 9/10 or thereabouts, just as I say that. Henry King with the better run off the turn 9 chicane will push that almost to a second, but not quite. And they come down into the Pringle. Don't want to be doing too much of that, but in saying that, so does Gavin Cox. Little pinch of the right front there, the inside tyre as it loads up with the turning and the braking required. But there you go. It's not much, but a little whiff of slipstream down the casino straight away. Just pulls him in by about a 1/10, maybe a 1/10.5 here by the time they hit the braking zone.
Looks like Cox a lot more confident on the brakes there than King as well. But we see that the dichotomy continues with slow in, fast out being employed by Henry King. Gains some of that time back on the way out of the chicane. Here's the battle for 4th. Spriggs has made his way past Tim Nicol in the pit cycle. And we'll see then if Nicol is able to get something back on him. They both pitted at the same time, so it looks like the pass was made on track. Either that, or I can actually see that the lane time for Jason Spriggs was full 1.5 seconds faster than Tim Nicol's one, despite the fact that Nicol had a faster pit stop by 0.5 second. So something happened in pit lane between the two of those guys that swapped them. And now see what Tim Nicol can do to find his way back past the number 14 here. Nothing too much happening on the way into that chicane, but you can see how smooth they are over the curbs. These cars are largely popular now because they're a lot easier to drive than the current Australian touring cars on the iRacing service, as that is Gavin Cox making his way past Henry King for second. King gets a slightly better exit out of the hairpin. Looks to me like that was a straight-up out-braking maneuver from Gavin Cox that got that done, but King will draw back alongside on the outside line into the final chicane. He gets on the brakes a little early. Cox moves over. Oh, that's a move that you see so often at the final corner here at Montreal. Driver moving over in the braking zone and potentially not realizing that the other car is there. So Henry King cannot defend that.
This makes you want to go back and have a quick look at that one from an outside perspective, since I was playing around with the camera there. but I'll take your word for it, because yeah, even with the camera fiddling I was doing, you could just see wasn't much space for Henry King to move, and all of a sudden the 555 middle finger racing car starts crowding on over as we come to 5 laps to go, and well, that's been happening. Your race leader, Aaron Gilbert, says thank you very much. I'll happily check out at the front of the field, and he'll do so in indomitable fashion as he's gone and set the fastest lap of the race.
1 minute 36.068 is the time that he set. So fresh tires right at the very end. That is indomitable pace from Aaron Gilbert, and you'd be hard pressed to pick anyone else for victory here, because aside from being as quick as he is, Aaron Gilbert also a very safe and clean driver. It's been very rare that that he comes across a mistake and ends up losing out as a result. So not much anyone can do to catch him at this stage. It's all going to be about the race for second and the race for fourth as well here between Spriggs and Nicol. Nicol is starting to gain here on Jason Spriggs. Nice clean exit for the both of them from the final chicane. They avoid the wall of champions. There's a slight bit of slipstream you can get here on the way down to turn 1. Once again, feels like Nicol is very confident on the brakes here. He's really drawing up onto the back of Spriggs, isn't he?
Unwanted yawn there, but yeah, he certainly is getting good momentum into the corner. It's just about making sure he doesn't overdrive the car, obviously, and have the scrub speed on the way out of this. It looks like, unfortunately for Lindsay Hobbs in a moment, I'll talk about that later though, because talk about using all of the available gap between yourself and the car ahead there. Literally nothing left in it between these two as they work their way out of the second chicane there. Turns 6 and 7, and then here to 8 and 9. Hit hesitation that time though for Nicol here on board with racing, got up and over that curb, so didn't particularly want to play ball.
Yeah. Oh dear, that is a rear lock-up for Jason Spriggs, and that allows Tim Nicol right on through. Spriggs recovers. No damage to the car. No one else involved, thankfully. Looks like that's allowed Liam Wild through into 5th. Well, that's definitely not the way Jason Spriggs would have wanted that battle to work out, but he's had to deal with that. It's something that you see quite a lot in these cars as well, is the rear lockups, because these things don't allow much in the way of auto blip. It's very easy to lock the rear tires, especially considering how far to the rear the brake bias is usually run on these cars just to help them turn in. They're 1.5 tons in weight, and they've got a locked differential with 600 plus horsepower going through the rear wheels. So they're challenging to drive at the best of times. As I said, still easier to drive than the current cars, but you still got to work to get them around a track quickly. King is doing a good job of it. He's right on the back of Gavin Cox again, and look at how hard he's pushing.
Talk about working hard. That's well, it's not hardly working. It's going all the way to the edge of the track limits and then some to try and find something. That there, though, was maybe a bit too eager on the curb on the way in, because, well, just look at that there, Reese, how much time Gavin Cox gains from getting a nice controlled exit out of that final chicane here, although a narrow entrance into the Pringle hairpin. Obviously, you can run it out reasonably wide there, but with the way the track comes back to that curb before you make your run down the casino straightaway, there is obviously a bit of give and take with the way you approach that hairpin as to how to get the best run onto this back straightaway as you then wind up. And there we go, off the limiter again. I think I mean to try and get an onboard shot with one of these G-Shifters cars. As we said, the roll bar doesn't quite get it. And unfortunately, all of these shots here, these are the... Actually, we could cheat. Can we look in through the door? No, we can't. That's actually what's worse. We'll ignore we'll ignore my effort to try and see if we can catch the rev lights on one of these G-Shifters Falcons, just to confirm they're actually on the limiter, despite what it definitely sounds like. But alas, 2 to go, Reese. And this is one of our closest fights here on track. In fact, it is the closest fight on the track. That, or it's the fight for 8th between Brett O'Keefe and Scott Stevens.
Yeah, looks like O'Keefe and Stevens are really going at it here, aren't they? Scott Stevens, of course, having changed teams recently. He's part of the Wilson's squad as well with Sean Slater. Spent a lot of time with Scotty in Sim World. He and I brought our teams together to found Fusion Sim Racing in the first place, but Scott's moved on to other things, and he seems very happy in his current place at the moment, and I'm happy for him. It's definitely showing that he's got what it takes here to fight for good positions in this championship, and O'Keefe running a little bit deep into the chicane. Oh, have a look at how hard Stevens is pushing on the exit, just controlling the oversteer there. You don't want to slide too much. Let's see how good he is under brakes. Closes up a little more there on O'Keefe, and slightly wider line on the way into the hairpin, straightens it up, but looks like O'Keefe had the advantage there. It's all going to come down to the slipstream, I think, and speaking of slipstream, looks like Henry King has gotten one on Gavin Cox, and is right on the back of him once again as they come into the first couple of corners. Oh, just a bit of hesitation on the throttle there from Gavin Cox. King had to back out as well. I'm wondering, you know, if what you're surmising is correct, Dan. King running a slightly shorter gear ratio potentially for this circuit, which is really giving him advantage on acceleration. Look at him go around the outside into the chicane. He's going to stick it up the inside on the exit. Cox is sent off into the marbles. That is fantastic.
Well, you don't see that very often at turn 6, though. Gavin Cox isn't done yet. Reese will actually have the nose ahead, but the outside surely at the 7-8 chicane. He'll try and fend the position off, but it doesn't work. What it does do is both cars compromise the run. Here we go towards the Pringle for the final time. I've got to get on board with Gavin Cox. Look at it here, and middle of the road defense. Shows the nose, shows the nose. Gets a lockup. Can he get underneath the rear wing of the Jinx Shifters number 2? Not quite. That looks to be the run. And Henry King needs off the corner to secure the place to the line. Lap traffic will step aside as well for good measure. And it's going to be a good tow here for the 555, but I think that will do it here. Unless the Hail Mary's coming.
Not quite. Meanwhile, up the front, Aaron Gilbert crosses the line. And that is going to be championship defense started perfect for Aaron Gilbert here. King leads, trails a Jinx Shifters 1-2 there. Liam Wilde keeps Jason Spriggs behind him and takes the last position in the top 5. The battle looks like has worked out in Scott Stevens' favour, meanwhile, for 8th. Look at that. Shane Bowen now trying to make his way past Brett O'Keefe.
And he will.
Even Stephen, yeah, it looks like even Stephen Varga might have, no, Stephen Varga didn't make his way past Brett O'Keefe. Looks like there was actually a big incident on the final lap there. Oh yeah, that's going to call for a replay, Dan.
Alrighty then.
Stephen Varga, I think, clearing a slowdown, and he got on the brakes. Oh, wow, there was no contact. Okay.
Right. We're going to the replay.
Yeah, check this out. Seriously, check this out, thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. So Varga clearing a slowdown out of this chicane here, and in comes Brett O'Keefe, thinks, okay, cool, I can just slide up the inside there, but both of them lose it under brakes at the same time. It's a synchronized spin. Scott Stevens says, thank you very much. I will take 2 positions.
He will indeed. Wow, how about that? And we're already into... Sorry, pardon me, that's the warm-up that we're going into this. So what we can do is quickly flick up to the race results, Reese, from that first race. My, oh my, talk about a bit of a dramatics in that one here. And, well, the top 10 got plenty to talk about, and that's just the first page here tonight.
Indeed. Well, Gilbert, untroubled up the front. 5.5 seconds is the gap to his teammate Henry King. Gavin Cox completes the podium. So a small commiseration there for Middle Finger Racing. Still getting a good result out of that. Tim Nicol and Liam Wild will lead home the top 5 there, with Jason Spriggs and Scott Stevens 6th and 7th. Bowen, O'Keefe and Grotch will round out the top 10, and Grotch gaining 9 positions there. Fantastic run.
It is indeed. Colin Bruns, the first car outside the 10 there with the 11th place finish. Also up 6 spots for him. Not a solid job indeed. Stephen Vargas, who said that late slowdown penalty, very costly for himself. And the 22 of Brett O'Keefe there, unfortunately. But for Vargas, he'll end up down in 12th place. Jamie Davis, about 10 seconds back there in 13th. And then last couple of cars here on the lead lap. Ben Henniker, 14th. Joe Mahoney, 15th. Sean Slater, 16th, and Dean Alessi, 17th. And then we get into our drivers who ended up that race a lap down or more. It's 3 cars here to round top 21 lap down. Peter Pavlovich, Darren Crosby, and Anthony Green there to be our cars 1 lap down. And, well, unfortunately, we then get into a rather lengthy host of retirements there, Reece.
Yeah, we do. McMillan, unfortunately, not able to get a good run to the finish. Neither did Craig Mason. Hobbs also retiring. Yeah, we better wrap this up quick because things are starting to lead on a bit here. But, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of drivers coming away with unfortunate mechanical black flags and heavy damage as well. Well, let's...
I feel like the timing is impeccable tonight with getting these things ready.
Yeah. It absolutely is. Clock hits 0. Gilbert and King going to lead the field away as the revs rise and the flames start spitting out of the exhaust pipes. Green flag flies and away we go. Better reaction from Henry King, but Aaron Gilbert gets the second phase of the start off perfectly. Gavin Cox, meanwhile, says, okay, look, MFR are here to fight. I'm going to try and fight here for second place. Side by side throughout the field. Nicol gets a position on Wild there with Jason Spriggs trailing behind. Bowen versus Stevens, meanwhile, just further back for 6th and 7th. Looks like Stevens has to yield there as the field comes into the chicane. This is going to be very tough here, but it looks like no one's really come off too badly for the first half of lap 1 at least. Now the moves are going to start to be made here.
There we go. Focusing on here, the 868. Stephen Vargas made up a spot on this opening lap, and yeah, it is a real game of who's willing to get elbows out nice and early and who's looking to play it a little bit safer. Unfortunately, drivers playing it safe, but losing out in the process. Look to include Nick McMillan here in the 88 machine. As meanwhile, further up the field, Tim Nicol and Liam Wild have just switched places. And here comes Jason Spriggs to the inside at La Pringle for the first time as they all jump on the anchors. Don't go in too deep. Don't run up the back of the guy behind you. And there you go. Gavin Cox still harassing the rear of Henry King as we go for the first time down the Casino Road. That's a lot of two side by side in the...
oh, there's a spinner too.
Oh, there's a spinner.
A couple of drivers off in the runoff area. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Looks like Tyson Hanmer and Lachlan Horan have both come off second best there. Horan, unfortunately, I think hitting Tyson Hamner around coming into that hairpin was just way too late on the brakes, and that created a little bit of a scuffle at the rear of the field. Well, we focus on the front, and Gavin Cox has not quite been able to pull the move on Henry King, but if race 1 is anything to go by, he'll give him a hell of a fight.
Oh, he sure will. It's just a question of making sure you don't burn up what you can give too early here in the race, as I'm seeing. Oh, bit of trouble at turn 1, it seems. Namely, that was Ben Henniker. I was on there for a moment. And number 13, Falcon there. Also cutting across the inside of turn 1. Oh, Scott Stevens just lit up red. No, he's going slow there as well. So there we go. Got ourselves quite a few cars that are in trouble as a result.
Too. Yeah, damage to the front right. I think he clobbered the wall out of the first chicane, and he's losing even more places now. He's having to let people go after such a good result in race 1. It's all gone wrong for Scott Stevens. Down to the next of our chicanes. Actually, it looks like Stevens picked up that damage a little earlier. It was coming into turn 1. He tried to pass Tim Nicol, but I think went a little bit too deep coming into the corner. Either that or Nickel didn't expect him to be alongside. So that's what's taken Scott Stevens out of contention. Meanwhile, Stephen Varga in 8th place at the moment. He has been scything his way through the field at the moment, but will probably lose a position here to Jamie Davis. No, the auto serve car actually gets on the brakes at the ideal time because Varga is going into the pits. It's the end of lap 2 and the pit window is open.
Yep. It looks like, though, Stephen Varga is going to be the only one from the front of the field to take the open pit lane offer. Looks like the only other car to join him in the lane is the 36 of Joe Mahoney from further on down back. And just as I'm talking about situations out here on the track, Liam Wilde, the 85 machine, goes a bit deep through turn 1. Turn 2, he's going to give up a spot to Shane Bowen in the process. Meanwhile, Danny Vassal's just lost a couple of spots out of turn 2 as well. You see his little pack starting to build up here real quick on lap number 3 of 19, and just ahead as well, Darren Crosby and Anthony Green trading places here on the road race.
Yep, coming down into the second of our chicanes, Tim Nickel makes the move on Craig Mason, and leading Vassal as well. There is a 5-car pack behind, though. Peter Pavlovich actually looks like will be having a move made on him by Daniel Stevens, who, as we saw, was one of our early retirements from race 1. Oh, Pavlovich off the road there. The brief look by Stevens sent him wide. We'll see what Daniel can do here in the number 3 to try and salvage some kind of result from tonight.
Oh,
as that is a
word.
big crush there. That is a massive coming together.
Tim Nichol's involved. I can see Lindsay Hobbs involved, and oh no, Nichol's been actually, I think, escorted off the road. Right, that's going to need a bit of dissection to break that one down. Scott Stevens has gotten entangled, but you see here Tim Nicol not going
When I see a
yet.
safety car.
Has he? Oh, I can't tell if he's called for a tow yet, but that car doesn't look like it's going anywhere anytime soon here as we see the rest of the field streak through. Oh, Dan Stevens, no!
Oh, at the exit of the final corner, the rear end is missing from that one. Oh dear, it's going to get worse. I think a safety car is definitely going to have to be called here. There's nothing Dan can do to avoid drivers coming through there. He will recover with a little bit of a gap, and well, he won't be able to go straight for the pit lane, unfortunately, it seems. He'll try and continue.
Oh, hello.
But wow. Oh no, not another one.
That's Peter Pavlovich over there on the side of the road. That car's smoking. And
He
that's
gets
not
off the racing line.
And that's not getting him back to the pit lane under its own power, I don't think.
No, that's not going to happen. Race control obviously monitoring the situation. Brett Loxton in the race control booth. Still wondering whether to call a safety car here. The drivers are still proceeding at racing speed. Aaron Gilbert now holding a very good gap, but he will go into the lane, and that makes sense, I think, because I think he senses there might be a safety car on the way there with Pavlovich still stopped on the side of the road. If you can take your pit stop now before the safety car is called, you'll gain a lot of positions when everyone else decides to change their tyres under safety car. Everyone's going slower. You'll gain more time.
But how's this for a split strategy from the Jinx Shifters duo? Everyone has pretty much followed Aaron Gilbert in. In fact, they're all still following Gilbert in. I'm yet to hear or see in... Oh,
the safety car's out.
Okay.
There was no announcement on the InSim text chat.
Yes.
So, yeah, we unfortunately missed that. We don't listen to the InSim text chat because we don't want too many voices in our ears. But, yeah, usually it comes with a text chat announcement as well. So that makes sense as to why Gilbert made his way into the pits just very early on the mark.
Yes, well, but interestingly then, why has Henry King opted to stay out when he watched his teammate come in from the lead of the race? It is a very fascinating thing. Well, whilst we've got the field under safety car and, well, everyone, as I said, pretty much came in there, let's try and go to the first incident that's triggered this whole thing.
Yeah.
And see if we can start dissecting where to begin with this. So we're going to look at the names that are coming up. This crashed.
Yeah. Nickel and Hobbs.
Yeah.
The
indeed.
ones that
Yep.
started all this palaver.
Unfortunately, there's a nasty trio of, Nickel, Mason, and Hobbs. So, without further ado, I shall press the magic button. And we'll pick it up here, starting with Craig Mason in the 47. So we've got Tim Nickel ahead, and Lindsay Hobbs ahead of them both again, as they both work down in towards the Pringle hairpin. So it's Nickel. Oh, no, Tim Nickel across the nose of Lindsay Hobbs, Reese. And that's what checks them all up. Now, focus on Nickel for the rest of this one here, because the rejoin and what happens afterwards definitely nasty. So Stevens, just trying to avoid.
And Nickel, I think, trying to get out of the way, didn't realise that Stevens was on his right-hand side. So that's unfortunate there for Nickel. And then what
Dan
happened
Stevens
to Peter Pavlovich?
There's Peter Pavlovich and Dan Stevens getting together.
Oh, yeah, the bump in the middle of the chicane there. That is massive.
Right. I'm just going to back that one up a tiny bit more if I can here, and maybe try and jump on board with Dan Stevens. So Pavlovich comes in to focus shot here. Yep. Nudge. And then done. And then bang! Obliteration. And the 216 there, which in the hands of, that's Peter Pavlovich in the 216. It was Craig Mason in the 47 who Dan Stevens got together with. And then, further contact from another car coming in at full tilt there. From the, from the War Chiefs. And then finally, Stevens gets it turned around. And that car was, beaten, battered, and bruised. Just to put it mildly. And unfortunately, as I cut back to live pictures, this is where we shall find the number 3 once again. I was just going to cut to, a zoom feed of Dan Stevens, since he's one of our drivers here tonight with the camera. Unfortunately, that doesn't tell a particularly happy-looking tale there.
No.
From the seat of the number 3 middle finger racing Commodore.
Very unfortunate. No fast repairs in V8SCOPS sessions. So you get heavily damaged. That is you done for the night. I don't know if we'll see Stevens out on track again. It'd be a real shame to see a double retirement from Stevens having qualified so well. Well, as we were looking at those replays, everyone else in the field has made their way to the pits except for Henry King. This is a very bizarre decision from King. Why has he stayed out?
Well, it does confuse me a lot, because as you said, he's now at such a strategic disadvantage to everyone behind. Yes, they've all got to manage a set of tyres now from, it was lap 5, they all came into the pit lane. Part of me actually knows the end of lap 4. But anyways, lap 5, lap 6 here, they're dawdling around. Of course, under the control of a Virginian Simulations Porsche 911 Cup safety car, currently in the hands of Brett Loxton. Since, of course, Henry King out there on track. As, now, see here. They're going to stay bunched up. And it may be the case that we don't actually have someone else in race control, at least not in a car. No. So there we go. Safety car is going to head off this time around, so we will go back green here at the end of lap number 6.
So Henry King's going to lead them all away. This is very odd for Henry King. I mean, he does lead the field coming off the restart, but I don't know if this is a good decision here from King. He still has yet to take his pit stop, and unless there's another safety car, he'll have to do it under green flag. And in any case, he is going to go way down the field when he comes into the lane. Let's see then, as things get going again. Out of the final corner he'll come. Yep, holding, waiting to go there. And away they fly. And that is not a good restart there from, it seems, Brett O'Keefe. Ends up losing a spot to Varga, I believe. And down into turn 2 they go once again. So now we have to start thinking about what the rest of this race is going to look like. As hello, the still damaged Tim Nickel still out on track there, going a lap down. Bowen and O'Keefe making it 3 wide on the way down into the chicane. You don't often see that.
Oh, look at this here. The rest of the field trying to get on through. Past it's just the one line part of the track, and now he gets off the line, but he's in the spot where everyone's trying to get up the inside under brakes here. That's causing all kinds of utter pandemonium as he drops down the relative order of the queue here, as drivers all trying to take advantage of the restart, and they just can't. So, well, good to see though. We aren't seeing any issues out here on track in terms of major contact or incidents at this point. Touch wood, of course, because
we've got a hairpin coming up.
Hairpin, and they're all packed together. Yep, there's certainly plenty of ways that might not play out, but we've made it to P15 and no one's gone around from what we can see. So I call that a win as they all head back up the casino straight one more time here, Reese.
Absolutely. Well, we continue to check out the continued advances of this field. King is going to lead across the line to start the 8th lap of this 19-lap race. But you can see that his car behavior is starting to get the better of him there on those now quite worn tires with the insane drop-off in pace that these things have. Gilbert behind will be starting to turn up the wick a little bit. I'm still confused as to why Henry King stayed out. The opportunity was right there, and he's basically backed himself into a corner as a result of this.
Yeah, you're off strategy with everyone else, but the only way this works out favorably for Henry King is if a safety car comes out, which will just recompress the field. Now, he will obviously get time in a safety car call. Oh, Gavin Cox! I'll talk about that later. Goes around and around and around he goes. He does keep it off the road, and without actually being hit by anyone. It's a minor miracle, it almost seems, but he does get that car going once again, Reese. And while I'm 99.9% certain that was just an unforced error out of Gavin.
Yeah, it looks like it was. It was a lock-up on the downshift under brakes into the chicane. And, you know, again, it is a problem that we often see drivers falling prey to in these machines. So Cox now is down in 9th after fighting for that 3rd, 4th place. The majority of the night, it has not gone well for the prime Middle Finger Racing crew. 10 seconds behind the leader now, but with Cox now still holding on to his pace and with no damage to his car, he shouldn't have much trouble from Darren Crosby and Danny Vassell behind him. Might be able to gain a few positions back before the end of this one, because Liam Wilde and Jamie Davis are currently embroiled in a battle for the 2 positions ahead, 7th and 8th, with Brandon Grotch and Shane Bowen not too far ahead of them.
Yeah, we'll see what can be done here. As I'm just going, nope, that's not worked as intended. Thank you very much, Overlays. I said look ahead. That meant look ahead, but alas, it doesn't particularly like that idea, so I get stuck with that. Anyways, I'll worry about that another time soon. Well, having a look around where the other battles on track, we've got Stephen Varga trying to keep Jason Spriggs honest. We've also, oh, there we go.
Yep, lead change. Aaron Gilbert now into P1 here. Made the move on Henry King at the hairpin. But that is quite the slipstream and good exit there from Henry King. Is he going to go for the pits here? No, he is not. So, once again, it is a 1-2 for the Jinx Shifters crew.
Although,
they're actually having a fight here.
All right, so they're confident that they've got the speed and can afford to have this race here, as that camera shot doesn't quite help out because that window has decided to be in the way there. Apologies. We'll go back up to the roof here of the number 2 Ford Falcon as he works his way through turns 3 and 4. Nice bit of sunset now striking the track surface. It's kind of a golden look here in virtual Montreal. That angle, well, it's not too important there, but catch the HDR effect some places. That can easily be a bit interesting.
Yeah, the sun is dipping low below the horizon, isn't it? It's just gone past 7 p.m. in sim time. We're racing into sunset and the dusk here in Montreal. And I'd be surprised if headlights didn't come on very shortly with how little light it seems is out there at the moment. The fighting in the back of the field, though, the number 47 of Craig Mason, he's continuing to plug on here despite picking up some damage. He's behind Ben Henniker now, and there is quite the fight going on up ahead of him.
Yeah, now, the reason I went to Craig Mason is all of a sudden he lit up my timing tower, just not in a way he'd probably like to see. Is
the Locked On Lads cars come together.
Dylan Budzeni.
That's a shame.
A little bit of a helping hand at Le Pringle. That's going to back up Ben Henniker and Craig Mason, where Henniker, it looks like, trying to get out of the way despite being in position to race. Henry King does come down the pit lane here at the end of lap number 10, Reese. So he's going to split this race more or less in half is his play. But despite being at the front of the field, look at all these cars. Ooh, let's see here the race off the lane. How many of these cars will he beat off the lane? Survey says all of them.
Yeah, only just. He comes out in 13th place. And it's going to be a long road ahead to try and get back to even the top 5 at this stage. Currently sitting in 12th place is Nick McMillan, and King is 4.5 seconds back from him. So Henry is going to have to put the hammer down here if he wants any hope of salvaging a good result from this.
Yeah, I think that might be the play here. I mean, to be honest, if we get a chance to, well, as the driver who came home second in race 1, maybe we'll get a chance to speak with him at the end of this one tonight, and maybe just sort of understand what the strategy call was like for him tonight, because, well, yeah, that's definitely going to be a piece of it. Look actually how quickly he's absolutely annihilated the gap whilst we've been talking here.
Yeah.
About what his potential outcome of the race is. As you said, that was 4 seconds. It's under 3.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible there. Shows the benefit of fresh tyres. Also, having said that, Nick McMillan is carrying quite a bit of damage to the front of his car, so I think that has more than a few things to do with it.
Yes, unfortunately, someone decided to put a frown on the 88. And, yeah. I mean, in theory, it's breathing a whole lot better, but, alas, it doesn't quite translate to actual benefits out on the track, it would seem. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, but what I think we should probably go have a look at is this old fight here. That is most definitely brewing here. We got ourselves the fight. Actually, no, there's definitely a 4-car fight. And make it 5.
5, yeah. Shane Bowen, unfortunately, with their exit there, has to let Brandon Grotch by, as well as Liam Wilde, or not, if they make contact, and Bowen gets sent off the road. Man, once you get on the brakes in these cars, there's not much you can do to alter your trajectory. So you have to be careful to give each other space. And unfortunately, Shane Bowen coming off the worst out of that. Gavin Cox right on the back of these guys. And, well, it looks like Bowen has managed to get things going again and not carry too much damage from that, but losing an awful lot of positions. So now that is definitely a 4-car fight. Cox on screen, pulls out in the draft, gets up the inside of Jamie Davis, draws alongside when they get to the turn-in point. That is a textbook move at the final chicane, though Davis had half a chance of getting back at him there.
You see here, it's similar up ahead. Meanwhile, Brandon Grotch, but these two here on screen, incredibly close. Down to turn 1, can Cox get that car pulled up? He can, and he'll make sure he covers the apex of turn 2 all the way through as well. And more or less a carbon copy of what we can see just ahead of them here for position number 4. Watch, oh, little wobble, and he might have just caught the fence as well for his troubles. That car now leaning on its tyres quite aggressively here. Look at that, that's a very wide through that second chicane as well. Somehow not losing time in the process to Liam behind him there all that much, at least, anyways.
Potentially Wild made a similar error, but he is definitely rounding him up under brakes, isn't he? Look at that. The gap was completely eliminated by the time they got to the apex of that right-hander. Down into the hairpin. And once again, Wild, much more aggressive on the brakes. Let's see if he can carry that momentum through to the exit. Grotch a little hesitant getting on the throttle. But nothing Wild can do for the time being. Coming up now on 6 laps to go. Baron Gilbert leading away by 3.9 seconds. And there's not much, once again, that anyone can do to overcome the reigning champion of this series. Spriggs looks safe for the time being in second. Stephen Varga, who was the first of our cars to pit. There's a defensive line there from Grotch. Wild still sticks it up the inside to turn 2, sends Grotch wide, and they come so close. Yeah, very nice move, actually.
That came quite late under brakes there from Liam Wild, and just had a whole lot of confidence that car would pull up for him in the 85 Wilson's Industrial Sales car. And yeah, and then look at Grotch. Just there's no grip, no lateral capacity left in that car, and it seems to also translate into braking capability because yeah, just cannot keep that car pinned up against the wall through turn 5. Can't carry the same kind of speed, and as a result, there you go, Liam Wild's giving himself a car's length down here to turn 8 and 9.
As indeed. Sorry, got a jaw cramp. My apologies.
We all have our moments. So, you know, you sort that out. I'll keep my eyes on what's happening here on the road. As we've got ourselves a fight for 9th place on the road. Darren Crosby and Dean Alessi having a real good scrap at it here as they work down into La Pringle. We're coming up on 5 laps to go here. And then work our way down the casino one more time. Nope, that's the wrong side of the car. Get up on top with the roof cam here. This evening we don't particularly have much value in the mirror cam.
Just caught the grass. That was an incredible save from Brandon Grotch. My apologies. I was just looking at that on my end, and I'm amazed that he actually held on to that. He has lost some time now to Liam Wild, but wow. I thought for sure he was getting into the wall of champions, but he did not. Ooh. And, well, getting into the rear end is going to be Jamie Davis, who is still dragging Gavin Cox along with him.
Yeah, so it's now a group of 3 here will go on board with Davis. As work their way out of the turn 3-4 chicane, all these drives. And look at the lift there from Davis, just to get some confidence in the car that's not going to just plough wide. It seems as though Grotch is more willing to lean on the car through those turns and just let it run out towards the middle, if not the left side of the road. In comparison, gap's pretty steady between this group of 3. You can see Davis closer to Grotch than he has Cox in behind. There's a lift there. Hang on a second. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Brandon Grotch, error through the turn. And same for Liam Wild. Has brought this group of 4 together all of a sudden. My word.
Once again, remember these guys were very close to each other just a couple of laps ago, and now there's the same story again. Let's see if Gavin Cox can take advantage of this, or even Jamie Davis in the autoserve car just behind in the slipstream of Brandon Grotch will not make a move into the final chicane. They all pound across the curbs. Ooh, that's the fastest way to get around here. My goodness.
I mean, for the most part, you're close against the walls, but the margin for error there for the 92 of Jamie Davis, 3rd in the train, maybe a piece of paper or 3 between his right side mirror and the wall. And there you go, headlights on here with 4 laps to go at Montreal.
Oh, yep.
So the sun dips ever darker. It has indeed, approaching 7:15 virtual time on a lovely balmy, which is not even balmy, I should say. It's a rather pleasant and nice virtual April day here. So a little bit of guidance around the circuit from the headlights, as it were, as this group works into the final couple of laps. Pass between Henry King and Darren Crosby. So there we go. Henry King has just made his way inside the top 10 with that one there. So continues to charge back. And where is the next car, Henry? 3 seconds, Dean Alessi. 3.5 laps.
Can it be done?
I wouldn't rule it out. But he is going to have to obviously make sure he hits all his marks. Yep. But even just keeping this up on screen for a second, look how much time he gains under... Oh, Henry.
Yeah, well, he gains it all back there on the exit, doesn't he? He's lining it up for those optimum exits onto the straights, and that's a huge part of driving here at Montreal. These guys are going to come up on a little bit of lap traffic shortly. Yeah, Dan Stevens, who's made his way back out on track after some damage repair. He leaves them all plenty of room as they come down the start-finish stretch. Stevens is going to get out of the way again for the 2 cars behind of Shane Bowen and Dean Alessi. So now,
Gavin Cox has been detached.
Yeah, that's a slowdown.
Slow down, yep. I just checked. Pardon me there. Looked over to my side screen like, Now, where have you just gone through and why would you possibly put your slowdown up? And bang. The full black flag sits, unfortunately for Gavin, quite on display. And what that's done is bring Shane Bowen to his rear bumper. And as I can demonstrate for all of those at home watching along here, Bowen here, definitely working the car over. So currently 8th, would like 7th. And still got Dean Alessi behind. And if I'm not mistaken, if I switch back to the normal vision, yeah, that's Henry King there eating into the gap. Yes, he's going to get Dean Alessi at this point.
Oh yeah. Look at that.
So
awesome.
Man is a charging.
He is indeed.
Freshest tyres at the field, of course. Does potentially help, but nevertheless, trouble for Dylan Budzeni here in the back part of the race. He will drop off the rear of the drivers he was racing, who are up here fighting over 18th.
Green and Mason, it seems.
But let's go back to the fight for 4th place here. Pardon me. Yes, 4th place. Still 3-car scrap. Now Liam Wilde, Brandon Grotch, Jamie Davis with Gavin Cox left astray, but Gavin now leading his own little train of 3, and Henry King happily charging along. That's Shane Bowen having a wobble through turns 3 and 4. Oh, does it hold up Alessi here through this second? It sure does, and Henry King is absolutely grinning. Surely.
Absolutely. Look at the time he's gaining on these guys now. Battling in the late stages of the race costs you so much time, and if you're on fresh tyres like Henry King, that will work out well within your favour. I also have to give a shout out, I half did it before, to Stephen Varga. Remember, he was the first driver to take a scheduled pit stop, and he did it just a few laps before the safety car came out, so he has gained massively. He's in 3rd, and all those drivers who are battling for 4th, they are not gaining on him as much as they'd like. That's a pass there. Alessi gets past Bowen, and well, that's going to be one extra car that Henry King has to make his way through to pass Alessi there. Of course, all of those being for position.
Yeah, and separate to that, something, I believe it's an error of some kind, and looks to be a case of simply an error from Jamie Davis in the 92 Autoserve racing car. As, oh, there we go. Yep, Henry King is on the charge now. Yep, here he comes up the outside of Alessi for the final turn. So he's got 1 lap left, and it's a game of how many spots can he take. 2 clearly up for the taking if he can size them up right. Well, the game is afoot. We might want to stay here with Henry King and this little group of cars for as long as we can to the end of this race.
Indeed, but we won't have very long. Aaron Gilbert's just going through the run to the hairpin now, so he'll be getting that soon, and King to the outside, trying to make his way through onto the grass. And and, well, Dean Alessi giving him just a tiny bit of room, but King with the fresher tyres should have a better run on the brakes here. Oh, he's not gaining as much as he wants, but Alessi goes wide anyway and lets him through. So there we go. Another position for Henry King up into 8th place, but I don't think he'll be able to catch Davis at this point unless he makes a mistake.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, or unless he sends one up the inside at the hairpin. Fair enough. Oh, they both spin. Varying fortunes as Aaron Gilbert takes the checkered flag.
We will go to Gilbert real quick here. Another clean sweep as, my word, Henry King.
Oh, that is tragic.
In the meantime, Jason Spriggs, Stephen Varga will round out the podium tonight as, here we go, Jamie Davis is going to hang on. He is slowed down. He's not out of fuel. No, foot's down. Oh, he is out of fuel.
He's coughing. He's
Coughing
coughing. Oh!
He will lose the spot to Dean Alessi. So that explains why Jamie Davis all of a sudden fell like a stone in the final couple of laps. And unfortunately for Henry King, the opportunity looked like it was for the taking and may have swallowed off a tiny bit more than he could chew there with the pass attempts down into the Pringle hairpin.
Well, the race has finished, and last few drivers just coming across the line now. It seems that all we've got to wait on is Tim Nicol in car 23, because these guys are touring their way back to the pit lane, and Aaron Gilbert with the clean sweep of round 1 of the V8s here in Montreal. One of the advantages of that hairpin layout change in 2002 being shortened is there's a nice tarmac runoff for some donuts that will taste especially sweet for our number 1 car. Championship defense right on point. Pole and wins and fastest laps in both races here tonight for Aaron Gilbert, and very well deserved indeed. He drove impeccably tonight.
He certainly did. And without further ado, Reese, let's switch on over here. I'll bring in a bit of that there, and we'll bring ourselves the full race results here from the second of our two races here for the opening round of the V8s in the SCOPS Supports 2023 season. And 8.5 seconds, well, it does end up looking a bit dominant there, and certainly a case of pretty comfy from start to finish there, it seemed, for Aaron Gilbert. Jason Spriggs will be the one to bring it up second place. Moves up 4 spots to do so as well. So a pretty decent bit of work from him there at the end of it all. Third place will go to Stephen Varga there in the 868, up 9 spots there to finish on the podium. So good job from Stephen, 100% there. 1 spot gain for Liam Wilde will put him in 4th place tonight, ahead of Brandon Groch in 5th, who comes from the backside of the top 10 there to move halfway up. Unfortunately, Gavin Cox slips a couple of spots down there to finish in 16. Alessi up 10 spots. One of our biggest movers, in fact, almost biggest mover, not quite, there to 7th. Jamie Davis, unfortunately, coughing at the line, will have to settle for 8th. He does hang on, though, ahead of Shane Bowen, who will have to take the flag in 9th place. Darren Crosby up 9 spots. We'll round out your top 10 there, Reese.
Up 10 spots for Nick McMillan, meanwhile. Definitely turned his night around. 11th place from 21st. Henry King with the unfortunate staying out under safety car. The best he could do was 12th, especially with that self-spin into the hairpin on the final lap. Danny Vassell, meanwhile, gains a good amount of spots to finish in 13th from 24th. And Joe Mahoney and Anthony Green will round out the top 15. Craig Mason, Jeremy Bush, Ben Henniker, Dylan Budzini, and Colin Bruns are your last finishers on the lead lap.
There you go. And it so happens to be the top 20 in the results as well. Tim Nicol, unfortunately, 1 lap down for him. It's been a rough night tonight for that number 23 Commodore. Brett O'Keefe, BJ O'Keefe, unfortunately for him, has to retire 5 laps short of the finish. Dan Stevens got back out there to finish 7 laps down in an attempt to try and recover some things there, and we then jump into the retirements in the race. Tyson Hammer, a rough night for him after capping off the 2 Litre Tourers the shift to the V8s has not quite gone the way I'm sure he would like. He retires 13 laps short of the finish. Sean Slater, Liam Budd, Scott Stevens, Lindsay Hobbs, all retiring 16 laps shy of the finish there with the big wreck that brought out the safety car. Peter Pavlovich, unfortunately, coming upon the stricken Dan Stevens, blows the motor, and along with Lachlan Horan will finish 17 laps down and the final of our 30 starters in that race there, Reese.
Yep, unfortunately Jeremy Maxwell didn't take the start for race 2, and Troy Sipple did make an appearance in practice, but from that point on he was non-compass for the night. Well, that brings to an end the racing action for round 1 of V8SCOPS supports. And I have to say, Dan, really sets things up very nicely for the rest of the season in those categories. But we've got 3 more coming tomorrow night. We've got the flat 6s, we've got the flat 4s in the Toyota GR86 Cup cars, and we've also got the Grand Tour GT4 making its debut on OSR branded running in the V8SCOPS season. Cannot wait for this one. It will be going live 7:20 Australian Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow.
It will. It's the introduction of 2 brand new support series to the roster for 2023 and the return of one of our other classic, well, other favourites, it would seem, in the form of the flat 6s. So we've got ourselves a bumper night of racing for that one there. A multitude of formats to get our heads around. So we'll see the flat 6s as the crown event with the 80-80 format, like we saw here tonight for the V8s, and the triple sprint format that we saw in the 2-litre Tourers earlier on will be used for both the Grand Tour and the flat 4s as well. And then once that's done, you then start thinking about, well, where the series goes to next. If you're going to be featuring what races are we coming on next? The simple answer is we'll be heading to a new track, the next track, on the schedule. That's what I was meant to say. Winton Motor Raceway will play host to the second round of the V8SCOPS Championship this year in 2023. We'll be bringing the flat 6s and the flat 4s along for that one there. So they will both take up the Friday night slot. We won't have 2 nights of running for that one there, Reese. So that's an idea of how things play out in the next couple of days for the V8SCOPS support series here in 2023.
Yeah, and of course we have got the main game, Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS, returning for 2023. We've got the Montreal 250 coming up at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Sunday. So it's a full weekend of racing action here on SimSpeed TV. We hope that you're with us every step of the way. Thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate your patronage. Big thanks to Wilson's Industrial Sales for coming on board for their support of this series. I'm Reese Gardner, Dan Yeaman alongside me in the comms box and handling everything behind the scenes, bringing you these pictures live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitch. From all of us here, we'll see you tomorrow.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.